Hi there. All right. Hello. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Johnny, Nina, and Mary.
Hi, Tiana.
So nice to see you guys. All right, Joyce. Hi, everyone. Okay. Nice. There we go. Everyone's dropping in. So first, letting people in.
It doesn't work because I need to plug in my computer, not my phone.
Okay, so it's USB. Sorry, I'm 1 second. I'm talking to my son.
Here.
All right. Sorry, I was connecting a cable. And here we go. Isabella coming in. Hi, Jean. Letting people in. Everyone, as we're speaking, go into your chat and type in a little hi, I'm here, so that I see everyone showing up after, as long as when you've changed your name to be you. There you go. All right. So there, I've got a whole bunch of stuff that that I have here that's opening up. Just as a reminder, if you guys have to open up VDI, please go ahead and make sure that you go ahead and open up VDI and open up Bridge to start with. If you need help, I can give you a hand with that. Mine is already open and waiting for everyone to show up. And we can get going. I have a couple of people who can't make it today. And I just want to remind everyone, and I'll have to repeat it over the class time, that I will be teaching for an extra hour today. And if you were not here last class and you didn't watch the whole recording at the very end, I was going to go for an extra half hour and then another extra half hour. Then everyone voted to finish the class at the right time, because it kind of had been sprung on them, and to have an extra hour today. Now, just so you know, it's okay if by 8:15 you need to leave. What I'll do is I'll keep teaching an extra hour, and then you have until Tuesday to catch up on that extra hour. It'll also be a good time to ask about personal questions or, things like that that might help you in your own work. I'm a little bit less concerned today. I felt like I was on. Ooh, okay. Someone has two things on in sound. I believe, Johnny, it's you, because the pop-up keeps coming you. If you have two things, you need to take the sound off of one. Oh, you disconnected from the other one now. Okay, it's okay to be connected on two things, but the sound has to be off on one. And that's not muted, but actually disconnected from audio. So I can help you with that. If you connect with your second device or computer or mouse, I can help you disconnect the audio from one of them so that you only have one of the sounds working, even if you have two computers connected, which is the best way to do this. But you also need to connect twice, okay? And I see, Johnny, that your second connection dropped. So if you want to connect again, go ahead, and then I'll show you how to turn the sound off on one.
All right.
Now, the thing about a phone, because I saw it was an iPhone, is that usually the reason I say people to connect with two things is so that they can watch on one and work on the other. So usually you'll watch like on an iPad or a tablet and then work on your computer. But an iPhone might be too small unless you have one of those iPhones that's really big to see where my arrows are going to then work on the other, but you see, maybe that works for you. It depends. My eyes right now would not be good enough to make me see the little details on a phone. But if it works for you, that's fine. Otherwise, that might not be big enough. But if anyone is connecting with a second computer, as soon as you start talking, if we hear that kind of reverb of two sounds, you need to not mute, but disconnect the audio from the second device. So let me know and I'll help you do that. So hi, everyone who's been showing up. I've been letting people in. Carol, hi. And oh, here comes Jenny. Megan, Kathy. All right, Isabella. All those great people. Faye, nice to see you. Okay. Emma, there you go. Perfect. Now, those of you who just say things like Emma or Joyce or Nina, go ahead and if you can, please, well, if you can, if not, I'll show you how. Please put your last name as well, because in the roster, I need to know your last name to be able to give you attendance. And if you don't know how to do that, the easiest way is go click on the participants button. And when the participants button comes up, you can have her right next to your name. You'll see a little more come up. And when you click on that more, then you can rename yourself or you can add a photo. So those of you who want to add a photo so that I see your face instead of a black box are welcome to do that as well. See, like Johnny over there has a photo. His sound is not on, his camera is not on, but he has a photo. You don't have to, but just showing you where you would do it from that little more button. All right, now one more thing I'm gonna say from the bottom of my heart. There's no pressure. Please don't take this as pressure to have you guys turn on the video. If you don't want to turn on the video, just don't. But it's a request for those of you who think it's all the same to you and you are fine with turning on the video. It really makes my life as a teacher much more pleasant to have some life on the other side. And even if I see some people, that's good enough. It's really hard to be talking and emoting to a bunch of blank boxes. And if your situation, your space, your privacy issues, you don't want to turn it on, that's fine. But for those of you from whom it's fine, I beg you. And then if you need to turn it off because you want to at some point take a break and being online, that totally get it, turn it on and off. But it really does help the experience of teaching and make me feel like there's people on the other side when I can see you or hear you. All right. And you don't experience that until you've actually been teaching. When you're a viewer, and I've been a viewer, webinars and stuff where, yeah, it's so much easier to turn it off and let it drone. But to say the truth, this isn't a webinar. This is a class where you have to be active. And when I'm asking you to do things with me to ask questions, it's easier to be present when actually you're having to pay attention as if you were sitting in a room. So your choice. That's enough said. I thank you, everyone who turn on their cameras. Yeah, I love so many things about teaching on Zoom that I thought would be horrible that are turning out to be awesome, especially the fact that people can review the material. But the one part I don't love about it is the lack of actual connection. Like I make a joke and I see someone kind of laugh, or I see someone groan like, oh, that was a bad joke. It's still a reaction versus no reaction. I don't know how those comedians do it. The night comedians now, they're supposed to like have funny jokes and no one's on the other side. Anyway. Right, guys, everyone, by now, I've been giving you some time with my little introduction chit chat to have connected to VDI. If you came here a little bit later, you didn't hear me say it, so I'll repeat it. Please, those of you who need to connect to VDI, please do so. Those of you who are at home, open Bridge. And the other program that we're going to be using to start with today is InDesign. So if you want to go ahead and open InDesign, but if you have a computer that's on Zoom, that has Bridge, that has InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, all of it open, it might really become a bit too much for your computer. So I recommend not having everything open yet. And in fact, if you have other things open, like you have 10 other applications open, just go ahead and close them all up for this class, because these programs take up a lot of power and intensity, and Zoom and sharing your screen. If I ask you to share your screen. So just to help the whole thing move faster, just close every program that you can. to help the whole your computer move faster. Okay, so now if you don't remember, yes, by the way, someone's saying when you have the video on, and you're smiling, thank you, the whole access slows down. So yeah, that's fine. If you have a slow connection, I totally get it. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not asking you to turn it on. I appreciate if you can. If you're in your circumstances and your Zoom is not, then go ahead and connect. But otherwise, no problem. No problem. I will not have you, like, oh, I'm watching you. In fact, I don't even see you. So I can't do that. All right. The other thing is, don't forget to go to the chat. Everyone's who's showing up a little bit late, and put in your little hello, I'm here in the chat for attendance. And let me say that if you are using VDI, try to start like 10 minutes before class starts, where you start connecting to VDI and setting yourself up and opening up your programs, maybe 5 minutes. I don't know, 10 minutes is too much. And if you're at home, opening up your programs that way, when class starts, today I'm giving us more time, but you're already ready to go. And I can say, okay, let's start and open up these files, and yeah, let's get running, okay? Now, some of you might be having an issue connecting and you don't remember how to. I mean, we only did it once. Some of you guys just did it the first time on Tuesday and don't remember. So if you're having any issues connecting, please speak up right now. Let me help you get connected. The goal is that you have Bridge open. Those of you at home have the working class files available. Those of you, everyone's at home, sorry. Those of you who have, when I say at home, people who are working with their own software. When I say at school, I mean, you're on VDI using the computer software. That's my brain. I know we're all at home or in some personal space, but at home to me means your own programs. Okay, that's kind of how I see it. Okay, so does anyone need help connecting? Are we all okay? I'm having trouble with audio. That's fine, Carol. Okay, so everyone has the files and Bridge is open, right? For those of you who have Bridge open, go ahead and open InDesign, because that one takes quite a while. Not that you don't have to, but it helps if it's already up and running. It's InDesign takes almost double the time than Illustrator and Photoshop to open for some reason. Don't ask me why, but it does. So if you open it to start with, then you can get going. So last class, many times I say last week, because over the school year, I always teach once a week. And then in the summer, I teach twice a week. And so if I say last week or next week, I always mean last class or next class. It's just my brain just works in week mode. But I just mean last time we met versus next time we meet. So if I say you have homework for next week and it's Tuesday, I mean Thursday. All right. So the homework for today was to practice getting connected. And since you're all like connected and you're saying you're good, then that means you've done your homework. Thank you so much. Before I launch into sharing my screen, any questions about anything that we did last week or anything that you saw on the video? Some of you guys weren't here in person, so you heard something and you need some support with that. Any questions whatsoever? Jenny, you're saying you need help, but you don't have sound. So how do you tell me what help you need?
Can you
Gotta
hear
write
me?
it. You do have sound. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just having a bit of, because I'm on two laptops. So I'm going through the VDI, but it's not. It just says Google. Let me share my screen.
Mhm. By the way, I've been trying to open my InDesign for quite a while and it just started. So trust me, InDesign takes a while. So go ahead and get going. Okay, I'm seeing your screen now. So you are you've opened up Google inside of InDesign, which inside of BDI, which we don't need. So go ahead, don't close just the new, well, close the new tab in the PC, it'll close the whole program. Yeah, we don't need that. Okay, so now go down to the very bottom left icon, the Windows icon, click on that, yeah, and then over there, go and open Bridge, which is a couple of choices up or down. Yeah, there you go. Oh, one up, two up. Yeah. So now, yeah, we don't need to be inside of the browser at this point inside of Google. All you need is Bridge. There we go. And now, since that's open, while the files pop in, you can also go down to the same icon on the left, far left corner and click on that and then go and choose Adobe InDesign. And that one's going to take quite a bit longer. So it's down, 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 down to the I. There you go. One more, one down. Perfect. And then that one will take its time to come up. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Anyone else who needs a hand? I know at first the whole VDI thing is confusing. Like, where am I? Where should I go? The world is a bit crazy. And then once you get it, it's like, oh yeah, okay. But it takes a little bit to think the VDI way. Any other question? Is everyone at Bridge in front of our class files? Before I share
There.
my screen? Yeah, who's that? Oh, that was I'm there. And okay. All right, so I'll show my screen now. And here you go. So I'm in, these are the class files. So if you are on VDI and you left this connected and you haven't used it again since last week, then Bridge remembers where you were. And so you are already sitting in class files. Now that's more easy at home where you probably haven't gone anywhere else, but sometimes on VDI it might disconnect and you might need to find the class files again. If so, we were finding them from this PC, and we're going to this PC right there, and then choosing the third icon, which is Google Drive, double click, and then shared drives. And then inside of that, you only had the folder for digital sign techniques. I have a bunch more. Double click on that one. And then the top choice was the digital design techniques class files. And that's what those of you at home should have downloaded. Now I'm noticing that I'm having some issues. See how here I'm having these lines across these two things. It depends on the connection. Sometimes this means that I won't be able to open these files. And sometimes it means that that's fine, life is good. So I'm not going to open them to try until I need them. But once I need them, if this isn't working out, it's because I need to reconnect my Google Drive. So I'm going to hope that it kicks in. I'll teach you how to fix this. If it's happening to you and I tell you open a file and it says that it's corrupted or unopenable or something like that, right? If it opens up like that, where it's this big black, it's because we need to reset our Google Drive file. So if any one of you guys who is on VDI has an issue when we go to open the files, then let me know and we'll do that. I'll help you figure out. I might even be one of them. Okay. So last week we worked on this one. In fact, that looks like these little lines, and that was the top, the toy top. I'm going to get rid of that file because as a sample, when I say top, I found out last week that it doesn't work because people think I'm talking about the above or something. Anyway, we double clicked on that JPEG, and what program opened up when I double clicked the JPEG?
Photoshop.
Yep, Photoshop. And why did Photoshop open? What kind of file is a JPEG?
It's a picture
Picture.
file.
It's a picture. The kind of material, so to say, if you could touch it in this analog world, that makes up a JPEG is pixels. Okay, so I'm going to write it down for those of you who have probably you've heard the word before, but just in case, I'm writing down pixels. But the other word that gets confusing if people hear it and don't know what it is I'm going to say it's called a raster file. So look at the chat, and I wrote the word raster file. So an image that is made up of pixels, which I didn't get to show you the pixels, the actual pixels of an image in Photoshop last week. Those are considered images that have that come out of a camera, for example. Like anything that comes out of a camera or a phone camera, a DSLR camera, like big ones with tons of lenses, or even a scanner. You scan in an oil painting and you put it in a scanner, they're basically taking a picture, right? The scanner takes a picture. So really these files are made out of pixels and they are also called raster files. So if you ever hear the word raster or rasterize or something like that, that's what it means. Turn it back into pixels, or it is made out of pixels. So sometimes you can have an image made in Illustrator that is not pixel based, and you can rasterize it, take it and make it into an image, which is pixels. Now it's not ideal. You actually probably rarely want to do that, but I'm just giving you an example of the word rasterize, which occurs now and then. And it means turning it back into pixel mode. It's kind of like water can be turned into ice or into water again, right? It's different modes of the same thing. To see an image that's a pixel or raster file and modify it and adapt it, we use Photoshop, okay? But if you're creating an image that's going to have to be really sharp and you want the lines to be very clear, Photoshop is not your best bet. So for example, logos tend to be things that need to be really sharp and clear edges. There are a few logos in the world that might have some soft fluid edges going on, but not most of them. And here's the key distinction. A logo has to work at any size. So, for example, here I have a little gift card right here. It's an Amazon gift card. If you pay attention, this is the typical little A with that little kind of smiley face arrow behind me, underneath it. So that's a logo. And if I were to measure this, it's probably less than an inch tall, definitely less than an inch wide. That same Amazon logo has to be able to be plastered on the side of a truck or even on the side of a whole building. So it has to be able to be huge. It has to be able to be that small. It has to be able to be tiny. Like you see it on the little tab of your browser, right? It's this teensy little Amazon, and we all look at that and we recognize the logo. So it has to be able to change sizes and always be bright and sharp. If you want an image to be that way, you have to make it not as a pixel or raster file. You have to make it as a vector file. A vector file is what Illustrator does. Okay, so Illustrator makes vector files, and it's basically mathematical computer calculations where you tell the computer, I want to draw a line, and you do that by drawing a line, but the computer calculates it and makes a computer-ish line, so to say, which is a vector file. And that line is tack sharp, and you made it 1 inch big. And if next week you want to make that thing 25 inches big, oh, the computer recalculates and makes you a 25-inch big. And if the next week it has to be 200 yards big, because for whatever reason, the computer recalculates 200 yards big. That's not come from reality. It's a computer calculation that can recalculate anything in the world, and it does not matter how big or how small you make it. It always looks exactly the same, just as good. Yeah, so that's a vector file. Versus a raster file, a pixel file, a Photoshop file, is going to be as good or as bad as whatever quality and how many pixels it had the moment that photograph was taken. So you are limited by the actual creation of that image, and that it can never be any different than when it was created. So over here, I'm going to click on one of these images, just a single click, not double click. If you double click, it'll kick open Photoshop, which you're welcome to do, but we don't need to do it right now, especially if you're working on a computer that's slow. So just single click on an image. And last week we finished this class when I was beginning to show you the file properties, the metadata over here. Okay. Let me stop this for a minute and remind my family, guys, I'm in class. My son just came in from school and he's chit-chatting away and I'm in the middle of the living room. So I'm hidden. I put some screens up. I just want him to know that I'm not talking on the phone. I'm actually in class so that they can keep the voice down. Okay, so so last week when we touched this, we were opening the top right here. And I reminded, and I told you about, I pointed to this information in here and I said that we were going to start with that today. I did say last class. We're going to start with that. Notice that if I click on any of these images, single click, this stuff down here is changing all the time. And this stuff down here is the metadata. Let me actually put a little spotlight where I can have a little red dot following my arrow so you can see it better. There we go. So now if you see or don't see the image here, it could be that you're under the published tab. See how there's a tab here? In which case, click on the preview tab and that'll let you see a tiny preview or a bigger preview of your image. Now remember down at the very bottom, and I'm like in the middle bottom now, I showed you at the beginning how if you click on the minus, I think someone was sharing their screen and I showed how if you click on the minus, all these little guys get much smaller. So you see everything that's in the folder. You click the plus and they get bigger, okay? But to say the truth, we don't need to see these too big. What we need to see them is big enough. If we want to see them bigger, because I want to know whether to open this one or this one. Or sometimes you have a photograph where there's groups of people and you don't know which one is the better one because one might have 3 people with their eyes closed, the other one with 2 people smiling. So you just want to see them bigger, right? So then you can see a little preview over here that's bigger, or better yet, hit the space bar one time and that file is going to fill your screen. Hit the space bar again and it goes down. So that's a better quick preview. So I'm going to click on this little cactus thing and I'm going to hit space bar and I'm going to hit space bar again. And that allows me to kind of see a quick preview of the image. Okay, quick preview and then hit down. Now you don't need to be up and down all the time. You could just be up by hitting the space bar and then you can use your arrows, like the arrow keys on your keyboard, kind of on the bottom right of your key. You can click on your arrows now and go left, 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 down, down, up, 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 and you get to see. Now I have to you get to see all the images that you have going. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the space bar again, and if I hit the space bar again, the last one I was seeing is the one that looks like it's selected. Okay. Okay. I really sorry, I had to tell them to actually keep it down. They hadn't heard me the first time. Walking in and out. All right. So this information here on the right, the metadata, tells us stuff that's going to become really important for us in this class, because we need to know what kind of material we're working with to see if this is a good enough file for us to use for our project. Okay. So we might have a file that looks good, everything seems fine, but we don't have enough pixels on it. So I'm going to teach you to discover what that means, but here's an example. Let's click on this one here that's called mexico.jpg. When I look to the far right, and by the way, these windows can be changed. You can put your mouse in the lines in between and drag them over to make them bigger or smaller to see more of your metadata or more of your pictures. So when you see the double-headed arrow, you can make this smaller or this bigger. Okay, so just click and drag. Right now I want to show you the metadata. And when I click on this guy here, this numbers or this information applies to this photo. It's kind of the summary of that information is in this little box right here. It says 3000 by 2000. That means 3000 pixels wide from here to here and 2000 pixels tall height. So that's how many pixels I have per side. Okay, now that number is really important because based on how many pixels I have, I'll know whether I can use this image for a business card, for a brochure, for a poster, or for, you know, a big size poster. Now, the other number that matters is this one that's next to the PPI, which in this case is 300. 300 PPI is a size that's going to be like the golden number for printing. If it says 300 PPI, we need to see how big that file will turn out. So look down here. It's same resolution 300 PPI, dimensions in inches, 10 by 6.7. This means as long as the number is 300 or bigger PPI, then that is realistic numbers for printing. So that's fine. 10 by 6. Yeah, I can print this 10 by 6. So it would probably be a good enough image for a brochure. What if I wanted a poster like a movie size poster? This image is not going to work for a movie size poster. Like, you know, movie like the kind that they put on the walls of movies or on houses when you buy a poster. No, that photo is not big enough. It doesn't have enough pixels to be able to print it as big as a movie poster. On the other hand, it's fine for the web, for anything I want to do on the internet. So how to distinguish that? Just for the internet, all you care about is the number of pixels. So 3000 by 2000, that means that 3000 pixels wide is probably going to fill most desktop screens. And that means that then it'll also work for an iPad or for an iPhone or any phone or something like that. So we'll be learning a lot more as every time I speak about this is when you want. So what if I'm about to begin a poster and I just look at this photo and I go, this is great. I put it in. It's going to look great on my screen. I won't notice it's not going to work because I'm designing on a screen. So it's always going to look good on a screen because a screen does not need as many pixels as print will need. If I don't read this metadata, I wouldn't know until it's too late. That was a mom yelling at her kids. It's like, they're not shutting up. I'm like, enough already. So that was me being like, Jesus. They just got back. They're unpacking from the grocery store and they're making a mess. Can't, I'm working in the living room. They have to be quiet. Okay. That took me out of my spiel. What I was saying is it's important to know what file you have before you go, because on the screen, you need so few pixels for it to look good that you won't notice it's not a good picture. It'll look good. Everything's gonna look fine. You'll send it to be printed and it'll be a horrible, fuzzy or icky image that you would have not been able to tell until you printed it. Because anything on a screen needs very few pixels to look good. And on print, you need a ton of pixels for it to look good. So you can't look at it on the page and say, it looks good, I can print this. You need to look at the metadata. Does that make sense? So you have to start with anything that's going to be printed with knowing if you have enough pixels for it. And Bridge is a great place to find that out. Now, what if the number here is much less than 300? Let's see. Let's go click on this little guy right there. The little baby with a balloon. So how many PPI does this thing say? 782. So if we just look at the 782, is that big enough to print?
No.
After everything I've just been telling you, it is definitely not enough, right? So in fact, on the chat, I'm going to write 300 PPI is the golden rule for printing. right? Just so that you guys have it written down and you can take notes. This is the place where you guys have to write it yourself because the chat's going to disappear. Now, yeah, but remember that I linked to the number 300 to the size? And if you actually, so when everyone said, no, it's a great answer. It's not 300, it's less than 300. So that means it's not good for printing. If I try to print this file right now, it's not going to work. But, I go over here. And at 72 PPI, it's telling me that dimensions in inches would be 53 inches by 39 inches. Wow. Does that mean I do have a poster sized image here? No. It means that at 72 PPI, this image will be this big. So let me explain again what PPI means. PPI, and this is pretty crucial, means PPI equals pixels per inch. Pixels don't have a size. Pixels are fluid. They can be really tiny or really big. So you have to measure a pixel by against an existing size that is solid. And everyone knows there's an established size an inch is, right? So imagine if you have, I'm trying to think of pinheads. And if you have little tiny pinheads, how many can you fit in an inch? Well, maybe you can fit 300 of them. What about those pins, pins that have the little like pearl on top? Those that have a bigger little pinhead. Oh, sorry. When the pixels are that big, you can only fit maybe 10 of them in an inch, right? Or so it depends on the size of that pixel, how many you can fit in an inch, right? So think about that here. It's how many pixels fit in an inch that really matters. So if you have 3,800 by 2,800 pixels total, so this is 3,800 right there, right? So one set, 3,800 pixels. That many pixels divided by 300 will give me how many inches I can make that print be, which is what was happening here. So no, it was this image. So 3,000 pixels divided by 300 told me, oh, I can make it a 10-inch wide image. Because if I grab all those 3,000 pixels and pack 300 of them into an inch, that gives me 10 inches. If on the other hand, I look at this image and I try to pack only 72 pixels in an inch, well, I have many more inches. That's why it's saying that I have 53 inches, because I'm only packing 72 of them in 1 inch. That means that my 3,800 pixels, whoa, I get 37 inches. But those are fake, because if I print them, I'll have a very fuzzy, out of focus image, like this blurry background behind myself. It's not going to work. So what I need to do is I need to pack them in, and that's totally doable. In Photoshop, I'll open it up and I'll pack it in, and I'll say, okay, grab all these 3,800 pixels, pack them in 300 until I get 300 of them in an inch. And how many inches will that give me? And I can tell only because before I had 3,000 that I got 10 inches, that at 3,800, I probably will get, I don't know, I'm not a human calculator, which is why I use Photoshop, but I might get 12 or 14 inches or something like that, right? Does that make sense? So if you actually pick up a calculator and you have a calculator and you grab 3,800 divided by 300, let me try that. I will tell you in a minute, and hopefully maybe someone's already done it and will yell it out faster than me. 3,800 divided, I said times, 3,800 divided by, thank you. So someone's much faster than me. I see, this is why I don't use the computer. I use the Photoshop. So 12.6 inches is what I'm gonna get. So to avoid us having to do this uncomfortable thing that I just did, which is using calculators all the time, Photoshop will do it for us, because we'll just tell it, well, I want to print a image at 300, and it'll recalculate and tell me, oh, 12.6 inches is all you can get out of this. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in Photoshop. But here you begin to get an idea but you can't make the connection. You can't say this is not good enough for print. At 72 PPI, the way it's set up right now is not good enough for print. But if I open it up and reset to 300 PPI, kind of like chewing gum, you have the same chewing gum, you put it in your mouth and you can get a long stretched out piece or bubble, or you can get a tiny little compact little piece of chewing gum. It's the same amount of pixels. It depends on how you stretch them or how you squish them. But the amount of pixels you have are going to work for something, even if it's just for a 1x1 photograph. That's good quality. Okay. So, but now we discover that this might let us fit make a 12-inch print. This will make us let a 10-inch print. Let's go to something that's tiny, like one of these little guys down here. These are tiny. I'm going to click on those. And this one is going to, at 300 PPI, it's only going to let me do a 2.6-inch photograph. See that? 2 inches wide. That's big enough for a business card, but it certainly is at 300 PPI. So I can print it, but really tiny. And look at how many pixels I have, only 700 by 500. Okay. So look at how much stuff we already found out about all these photos just based on the metadata. I'll click on this one and there's 800 PPI on that one. But in this case, it's set up at 240 PPI. So 240 PPI is another kind of magic number. If you don't have 300 PPI, which gives you the best print ever, so say National Geographic magazine quality, kind of really good glossy paper, needs to be 300 PPI, high quality photo print. But if you really are going to print like in the newspaper, like in the Independent, if you're from Santa Barbara, or if you're going to print on, you know, a lower quality image, like those gallery photos that people print on canvas, so they look like paintings. Well, you know what? You just are not going to get the highest quality ever. So maybe you can get away with having only 200 PPI. So you only have packed 240 pixels into each inch. So then you get a 3x3 print out of it, right? Which if not, if I had to pack 300, maybe I would only gotten a 1.5 inch print out of it, right? So this is very malleable. It's like chewing gum. You just stretch and ooze. But what you can't do is add pixels. If you have only 800 pixels on this picture, that's all you have. If you want more, you have to go and take another picture. That's your limitation. Versus Illustrator, you can always make it as big or small as you want. It's not a raster image. Raster images, you cannot add more pixels than what came the moment it was taken as a photograph on camera.
I have a question, Diana. It's Kathy.
Yes.
Maybe this is a silly question, but it's like, okay, so there's such a variance between the pixels. Is there a way to avoid that when taking a photo? Or maybe is there a better way to take a photo so you get a maximum amount of pixels? Or how does that correlate to the outcome of it? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
By the way, it's a great question. And I want everyone to never assume that they shouldn't ask questions because it might be a stupid question. Never. First of all, you're learning. You're in the beginning. So no question is definitely beneath asking. There's never a question you shouldn't ask. Now, if there is a question that might be too much, then I'll go, well, I'm not going to talk about that until, you know, we get a little bit further. But it's certainly never anything that's too simple because that's why you're in class. You're here to learn. So please feel I really want everyone to feel comfortable asking whatever question they need to ask. All right. So the answer to that is, it's a great question, actually. So when you take pictures, you have a camera that you purchased. Either you have I happen to have this little guy here, a little digital camera. You might have, I don't have my big DSLR here. You might have an iPhone. You might have whatever you have with you. Already has a limited amount of pixels that it can capture. So you, as a photographer, are limited only by whatever equipment you own. Now, I want to be clear, it's not too much of a limitation because just about any modern equipment that I just mentioned will take a picture with enough pixels to be able to print at least 11x14 photograph. How many of us want to print photographs of our daily events at bigger than that? Probably never. It's only when you're taking photos that are supposed to be published at really huge sizes that the amount of pixels truly matters. So as far as capturing the image, just about any equipment we have will have enough pixels. In fact, if I take a photograph with my phone, at this point, a typical phone takes an 12 megapixel image. What's a megapixel? A million pixels. Okay, a megapixel. Well, you've heard the word probably megapixels a lot. Well, that all that means is million pixels. So let's see this image that I was showing you at first, this little boy. How much is 3873 times 2840? Let's find out. 3873, you know, because you want to multiply the sides to get the total. 2840 equals 10,900,000, basically 11 million pixels. So this image has 11 million pixels. How many million pixels did I just tell you my phone can capture?
12.
12. So I could capture this photograph with my phone, which is basically as small as pixels get. Any other camera will have more than that, and still be able to print the picture. We decided it was going to be about 12 inches wide, like a, yeah, I think that's what we had decided. This would be about this. If this was a 10:6, this would be a 12:8. So with my camera, any photograph that I can take can be printed comfortably at 12:8 size. If I'm going to print it in a high glossy surface photo paper, if I'm going to print it on a newspaper, it can, or something lesser quality, it can be even bigger. So the only limitation when you see these images, I'm showing you this image that has much fewer pixels. I just clicked on, what was it? This one that had less, and look at this one has even less. That is because these are not the original captures. So this could be an original capture. This is an original capture. But if I go to this one here, or this one here, where you see only 800 or 700 pixels, that's because this picture has already been downsized. Maybe someone has already gotten rid of a lot of pixels from it, probably in order to post it onto the internet, or possibly in order to put it up as a sample file to teach from, which is what I'm doing. So I've been talking about print. Let me explain now. I'll talk about the screens. If the same image has to go to a screen, a website, for example, I need to get rid of as many pixels as I can. Boom, dump pixels, make it much smaller, get rid of pixels, because that file is too big to upload onto the internet. So I'm going to grab that image and I'm going to get rid of a lot of the pixels. And I'm going to make it really small, 500, 700 pixels, what you're seeing on these other ones, to be able to post it on the internet as a small file. Okay, so I put it up as a small file. It uploads nicely onto the internet. And then when someone downloads it from the internet, that's the only file they have. And so that print is not able to be, that photo is not able to be printed bigger than it is, because you don't have the original that came from the camera. That's why if you ever try to print something that you downloaded from the internet, you won't be able to print it much more than an inch by an inch or something to make it look good. Yeah, who was
And I have
asking
a
a question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you're making that change in it, is it saving it as another copy, or did you just reduce that original photograph size, never to get that back?
No, we're going to spend an entire day here doing just that. And your question is really important. You should never reduce your original, because you will never get that back. So you always work on copies, or you save as, okay? You never, ever, ever lose your original pixels, because they are impossible to be recovered. If you dump, if this picture that I took, I dumped all the pixels and saved my file, the only option is for me to go traipse my way back to that tree and photograph it again to recover those pixels. There is no recovering it once I've closed the file. So you always have to work on duplicate copies for when you're ready to make a version that goes to the internet. Or I'll teach you in Photoshop, you export a file so that it doesn't ruin the one that you've got going. So let's actually start doing some of this by hand. Now that you've all got InDesign opened up and down there. This whole conversation that I was having here was explaining to you the importance of understanding the metadata. Now you'll get more comfortable with this metadata as each time that we create a project, we'll first look and see if the image is good for that project. So if this image had to go up to the internet, this is fine. If this image has to go to print, it's not fine. And you only know that, begin to glimpse at that information based on what I just told you here. All right, so now we're going to start working on, see, I'm getting these little lines across everything, so I have a feeling I'm going to have to reset my, does anyone have this issue that you're seeing these lines across your images?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay, so what
Yeah.
we're going to have to do before we can open up our files is for VDI people, we have to reset our Google Drive file stream. So everyone start doing this with me. Carol, are you on your own stuff? I think you're on your own computer, right? You're not on VDI? No. Okay, so then everyone who's on VDI, let's go down, follow my mouse to this bottom right and find this little tiny icon here. Okay, that points up. If you see it, fine. If you don't, then go to this icon that says Google Drive and click on it one time. So this is just because our files need to be refreshed. Head over to this gear. And if you're not following me, then go ahead and let me know. Go to this gear, click on the gear, and let's go to preferences. Don't quit, go to preferences. So remind me, everyone, down there, if you want to write in the chat or you want to tell me, Nina, Megan, people that I'm not seeing, how many of you are on VDI again? If you're on VDI, give me a little yes with your little emoticons. Give me a little yes if you're on VDI, or a raised hand is fine. I need to know who's on VDI. Yes or raised hand, I don't care. Put it up. Okay, so then we're going to disconnect the account. Okay, so just disconnect the account right here. It says your Google Drive will be removed. Yeah, we need it to be removed and we need to reconnect. So we'll say okay to that. And then you should be getting a sign in choice again. Is that happening?
Yeah.
If you've disconnected, okay, so now we're going to sign in again. Click on sign in with browser. Oh, I didn't click on sign in with browser. It'll make the browser pop up, which, okay. And then put in your pipeline username at pipeline.sbcc.edu. I was hoping to avoid this. Sometimes at school, it connects directly, and other times it makes us reconnect. So sign in. Next. You have to scroll down all the way down to this and say allow. And you're signed into Google Drive. Close this window to return.
one more time on the sign in.
Yeah, so when it pops up, you need to put in your school pipeline username, which is the whole username at pipeline.sbcc.edu. So I just put it in the chat right now. So it's your username at pipeline.sbcc.edu. And then the next window, you have to scroll down and say okay to that bottom window. Okay. And then it'll say, welcome to Google Drive all the time again. Just say, okay, just click on no, and then it'll try to pop up a window, which we don't need. So say no again, or not no, but close it again. We're not going to use that window. So you're basically reconnected. Next time, we're just going to do this at the beginning and just assume that it needs to be done. Then on Bridge, go back to this PC, Google Drive. The best way to avoid this actually is to sign out at the end of the day. when we're done, and then sign in again automatically. Okay, shared drives, double click. Digital design techniques, double click. And then class files, double click. So the path to how I'm getting here is this PC, see up here, how you see the whole path written out? This PC, Google Drive, shared drives, digital design techniques, class files, digital find, and now you're seeing all the files. Oh, this one is still
It's-
looking weird.
Yeah, same.
It probably will refresh later. But I know that now the Google Drive has been reset, so it should work. All right. Anyone who I lost on the way here? Anyone who needs a reminder? I can do that again. So basically this PC, Google Drive, shared drives. Y'all okay? All right.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's head over to I'm looking for the InDesign file. What's the name of it? I have an InDesign file up here. Okay. Let's go into this front folder. It's one more folder. Double click on O1 brochure, Hansel and Petal. See that? Double click on that. And now we have these files in front of us. So there's a whole lot to unpack. We're going to create some material starting on an existing document to begin to, we're going to create something from scratch, and then we're going to create something from that exists. So we're going to start first with something that already exists. In this folder, you'll see a typical file setup is going to consist of an InDesign file, INDD, where you do the layout. In this case, DOCX, the text for the brochure. AI, it's an Illustrator logo. JPEG, which is the photograph, and a PSD, which is a layered photograph with some transparency. That little checkered there is not a tablecloth. That means transparency. These photos will be cut out and won't have a background. Okay, that's a layered file. So this is a typical set of photos, images, and logos and text of what it would take to create a finished piece. All right, so let's go ahead and open the InDesign file. Since our InDesign files are already open, if we just double click on it, it should open up relatively easily. So double click and you'll get this message. Stop there, don't say okay. Let's wait until everyone has it open, because I want to, all the messages are important. Should never just kind of click okay, okay, okay without seeing what these things mean. All right, so as long as everyone got this open, this document contains a link to a source that is missing.
Which,
Diana?
You can find,
which
yes,
document?
Jean?
I'm
Hi,
sorry.
Jenny, I'm sorry, I didn't get it open. So I got the,
I stopped hearing you. You said I didn't get it open. I got the,
so I got the you said the Hansel one open. And then
Mhm.
where did we go from there?
okay. So inside of the Hansel, you have all these files. The first one is the .indd brochure, Hansel and Petal. Double click on that one.
Okay,
If you haven't opened yet InDesign, it'll kick open design into opening, and that'll take quite a while. So Jean, you were talking, you had a
That was this,
question?
I had the same question.
Perfect. Anyone else who needs to open it up? When you double click, as long as you see that it's like if you keep clicking 2 or 3 times or something, if InDesign wasn't open, it'll just suddenly try to open 3 versions of it. So just give it some time. Now down here, I can go from InDesign to Bridge. See, like we did last week with Photoshop. I actually have the doc file open that I had opened a bit earlier. So you guys should only have brochure and InDesign open. Brochure meaning the Bridge. Okay, So now, I want to explain what this means. InDesign, I told you, is the place where we create the layout. And what that means, it's kind of like, you know, you're going to make a collage, you put a piece of paper, and then you start bringing in, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And it's the holder for all of the material that you bring in. So all this little bit of this, little bit of that, that you brought in can be brought in two different ways. Is it can be linked or it can be embedded. When it's linked or embedded, it makes a huge difference to that final file. And let me just say that 99.9% of the times you want it to be linked. Okay. There are situations where you might want it to be embedded. For the most part, you want them linked. So what does this mean? It means that digitally, you're basically telling your container, which is the InDesign file, that what you want to see in this place is a photograph, but please don't bring the photograph into my document, which would be embedded. Just point to it. So where is that document? It's in a certain folder. So you just point to it. So instead of having one humongous file, you have a lean and light InDesign file, which links to where the photograph is going to be. That's going to be the main photograph. It links to the other photograph. That's the secondary photograph. It links to the logo. So really the final piece is all those 5 put together that need to move around together because they are one piece. And so what this thing is telling me is that the document has a file linked to it, but it can't find it. So you have to find it and relink the missing link. Okay, the document somehow lost track of where that is. That's okay. So let's say okay, because we're going to have to do that. For now, just say okay. And now I'm going to show you what that means and how to do that. All right. So now we have another message. Get lots of messages. And this one is telling me, oh no, you are using a font that I don't have. This computer doesn't have this font. What should I do? Well, here's the thing. Whoever designed this created it because this is like a temp. It's already a half. It's a beginning of a design of a brochure that already exists. And they chose fair water script regular for some part of their text, and they chose Montserrat Light and Montserrat Light Italic for some other part of their text. If my computer, which in this case is my VDI computer, doesn't have them, by the way, just to know, those of you who are at home, it probably doesn't have them either, right? Or is someone at home not having this message?
Mine has this message, but it says available from Adobe Fonts, and then I can activate it or skip.
Okay, so I was going to say there's different messages. So see how mine says replace fonts or enable fonts? Hers here is saying, repeat again what it says, enable.
Skip or activate. It
It says
says skip or
activate.
activate on the bottom, but then where it says substituted with default font, it says available from Adobe Fonts.
So over here, it's telling her that it's available for Adobe Fonts. Okay, so here's the tiny issue and problem that we have with having the school account versus the real account. People who have the real account, when you're paying for the software, the Creative Cloud subscription that you've made comes with a whole bunch of fonts that you're allowed to use through something called Adobe Fonts that are for free, not for free. I mean, you're paying, you paid however much you paid a month and you can use them. So when you have that kind of account, it's telling you that you can click on here and it'll bring the right font in. Hold on, Faye is saying, I'm on VDI, the first front window is just a solid blue box with a caution icon. Okay, the caution icon, kind of like the little exclamation triangle, that basically is saying some link is missing. So go ahead and continue on to that. And then tell me if you see a different message coming in, Faye.
I just closed out the prompt box.
Okay, we're gonna show you how to link to the things that are missing after we pass through all of these other things that are missing. Now, this is typical, by the way, unless you've designed it. So right now we're starting with something designed by someone else, and it's typical, and this is why it's important, that if you design something with a particular font and you own the font or the rights to the font, then you have to provide the font. If you move your file over to someone else who's going to continue doing it, but you have to have the rights to do that. It's a long, complicated process that has to do with the ownership and the rights and licensing, because fonts are owned. There's a designer who designed a font. Font is the way a type is going to look. It's going to have a design made by a certain designer, and someone has paid that designer for the rights to use it. And if you just willy-nilly give your fonts to someone else, you're kind of stealing, because you're not, that person didn't pay for the rights. So you have to be very careful with fonts. In this case, we'll talk more about that. But in this case, those of us on VDI here, it's not giving me the chance to substitute with the real thing like it gave, who was it, Isabella? Who mentioned their message that they got?
Yeah, me, Isabella.
Yeah, Isabella, yeah. So we could enable Adobe fonts, or we can replace them with some other fonts that we do have. Now, if we try to enable Adobe fonts, if you're at home or somewhere else, it's going to work. Since we don't have a full account, ideally you would try to enable Adobe fonts. So everyone, let's click on enable Adobe fonts. And it's thinking. And so it's opening up. See how on the bottom we're opening up Creative Cloud Desktop right there? It's going.
Wait, so should I activate mine then?
Since most of us won't have it, probably not. I mean, you can, but I will be not using those because we won't
So
have
just
those
skip
fonts.
it.
So for now, hold on. Don't do
Okay.
anything. Wait
Okay.
until you see what fonts are available to us. So over here, it's opening up Creative Cloud Desktop. And it's telling me, oh, we can't do an update.
I'm not seeing that on VDI.
Hold on, I'm gonna take a picture of this. I'm gonna do a screenshot because I need to show this to the tech support. This is the kind of stuff that they won't know what to do until I show it to them. Because then they'll go, well, when is it happening? And I'll go, it's happening when. Okay, so I have I took a screenshot. So it's telling me that it can't connect. What is it telling you guys if it's not giving you this message?
Update.
It just says update.
Just
Well,
goes
we
to
can't. I
another
mean, if we
screen
could-
to replace the fonts.
Yeah, so this isn't gonna work for us. We can't update. So for whoever it says update, go ahead and click on that. We don't have the rights without being administrators to update it. But still, it wouldn't have let us do it. I wanted to show you how it didn't let us do it, but it doesn't. So our only option, since we don't own these, is to actually replace the fonts. What does that mean? Well, we won't be able to use these. We're going to have to find a font that we do have rights to and that we do own that might look the same. Now, we still don't know what fonts we want. So let's hit replace fonts. And for those of you who don't have the option for replace fonts, then go ahead and say skip. And then keep me informed about what comes up next. And then here it's basically saying, okay, wherever it shows Fairwater regular script, what do you want to replace it with? Montserrat, Light, Minion Pro, what do you want to replace it with, right? So it's giving me choices. Right now, it's defaulting to Minion Pro, which is kind of like the default Windows font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Fairweather script regular and let me try to activate it. It probably won't let me because of the cloud, but let's see if I can activate it. Let me hit activate. And it's looking to see if Adobe has it.
When I pressed skip, mine just went to the brochure. It didn't give me any options.
Oh, it did activate. Look at that. Cool. It activated it. All right, well, that's good. I thought that it would say no because of that update. But see what happened there is that I told it will go find it and see it was searching and searching and searching, and it discovered that it could activate it. And down here, I had shown you, but I don't know if you noticed, maybe you did notice, but behind this was surrounded by a pink block. There is a pink block here before, and you have to trust me because I hadn't pointed it out to you because I didn't think that this would work. This pink block meant this font here I don't have. It was InDesign telling us I don't have this font. It was a big block of pink under this text. Since I hit activate and the computer was able to go into Adobe and find them, see how they don't have the exclamation points right now. Not only do they now look like they should look, this is the right fonts, but also the little pink block disappeared. We're going to open other stuff with bad fonts or in unable fonts, and you'll get to see that message. All right. So does everyone have are you at the point where everyone's fonts here are okay? Meaning they don't have the exclamation point?
No,
Whether you're at
Still
home,
activating.
yours are still activating?
I'm in VDI and I don't see an option. I see the yellow exclamation point, but there's
Okay.
no option
Did
to
you-
activate.
Okay. Did you click on one of them?
I
Click
did,
on one of them,
I did,
and then you don't have an option to activate?
correct. No
Yeah.
option to activate.
See, now that is confusing to me. Why are we all in the same VDI and one of us can and one of us can't? Because that drives
I
me crazy
couldn't,
because as
I
a
couldn't do
teacher,
it either on
So-
my VDI, but what I did is clicked on it and hit change all. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but it seemed like the only option I had.
no, I was
And I
trying
did
to.
that to each line.
It wasn't the
I
right
don't
thing
know
to
if
do, but
that's-
here's why.
Oops.
It's
I hate it
okay,
when that
because that's fine. I wish that we all had the same answer because then we could all have the same support. But since some of us have one, something with the other, we'll end up with a different document, which is, we'll just not save and we'll go back to it. But what has happening right now, if you had to change all, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that mine didn't come in. So look at this font and what it looks like. Okay.
Mhm.
If it hadn't found it, then I would have to change it and it'll replace it with this Minion Pro. Now Minion Pro is not going to look at all like this. And so it's going to look very different. So we would have had the chance, if you didn't say change all yet, you would have had the chance to choose a different one that might look more like it. Okay. So you would go in here and go, well, maybe this script changed for another script. And then you would say, change that. Or this one change with this other thing, and you would say done, and then you would change them for another font that your computer has. By automatically saying change all, what's happening is that they all will change to Minion Pro. But that's fine, because in the end, all I wanted is for us to see what you do when you can't get the fonts. But my computer suddenly was able to get them. So, and it's not my computer, it's my VDI. So whichever way, I'm going to go ahead and click on this and I'm going to say change all. And if you guys say one or the other, all that's going to happen is that we're going to have different fonts for this example, but that's okay. Don't worry. I'm going to say change all so that these fonts do not stay. And see how now it changed. See how I added the nice little script and now it's a different font. See that? So now I'm going to click on Minion Pro and I'm going to say change all. What change all means, all the instances in this document of Minion Pro are going to change to Minion Pro regular. And I'm going to go to Montserrat and I'm going to say change that one, and to Montserrat, change all and change all. Oh, this one is not changing. I'll change it to it's itself. It's done. This is the only one I have. So done. Okay. So basically I chose each one and I said change all to Minion Pro, which means it's much more boring, but it's a font that we all have. Now I'm going to say done.
Hey, Diana.
Now. Yeah.
That box that says find replace font for me is,
Mhm.
I think because it's pretty large, so I can't select anything on that one. Want me to share?
Oh, you have one of the resolution issues. Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me, hold on. Let me stop my share. There you go. Go ahead and share your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, so can you click on it on that window for a second? Okay,
And
can you
even
see if you can
tried
put
like-
your, put your
Yeah, I
mouse
even
in the
tried-
corner?
Yep, nothing.
Yeah, you have something else happening. Click again, something when you did that. Yeah, it's, I've seen this happen before. It's almost like the whole box doesn't draw. And I've only seen this happen with VDI, which works really well on just about everything, but it has a harder time with InDesign. Go ahead and hit your escape key. Okay, so now you've basically scroll up a little bit so that we can see your text. Scroll up a bit more. So to see if there's a, yeah, you're having an issue with the redrawing. See how you're getting like these little duplicate things? I would recommend close your file and open it up again because that's weird. So how do you close your file? See, go up to the top left and see where it says, oh, wow, brochure Hansel right underneath where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go to that little X right there. Yeah, close that. Okay, and now you can open it again, even from that right here. See how you see a little icon of it?
Mhm.
Just open it up from there and let's see if that helps your redraw. Say okay.
And here's another one.
Yeah, that's fine. You're not creating anything. You're just opening. So say okay to that. Say okay. Wow, you're still having that weird box. Go ahead and
just-
hit escape.
Yeah, can you escape
Yeah,
and
hit
then, you know,
escape. Yeah, but you're still having issues with redrawing. And you're on VDI. Well, it'll help when you're not sharing your screen, but oh, okay, guys, this is a problem with redrawing and connection. Are you on two screens, Mary?
Yes, yes.
So maybe this is when you need to stay only with one screen for a little bit, but first of all, you're sharing your screen, which is worse. So I'm gonna stop your sharing. And what's gonna happen to her is she's gonna have a a pig box around her text, okay? Because her text didn't change. I had her hit escape key to get out of that. Don't worry, I'll show you a better place to fix it from. All right, I hate when VDI causes problems that you think it's you or InDesign, and it's neither. It's VDI doesn't work too well with InDesign, I've noticed. All right. Okay, so I'm at this window and maybe you all have a similar-ish window or something that's similar to that. It's
You can start
only
sharing.
because,
Remember.
what's
start
that?
sharing.
Oh,
You're not sharing.
thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. I always need someone to remind me because I see it fine. It's you guys who need to tell me you don't see it. I can see it. So this is basically teaching me something that is saying, oh, InDesign has a new feature. So you've only seen this once. Now it finds and activates all available fonts in your document. So you can do that so that you don't have to go and do what we just did. Because this is the 2021 version, which last time I taught this, I was using 2020. So you can change this. Do you want to do it automatically? And so if so, we can say enable auto activate. Okay, so if you have this open, go ahead and say enable auto activate. And
Diana,
yeah,
I need some help getting to where you were. I don't know what I pressed that accidentally got out.
okay. Let me just say that this only happens once because it's the first time you've opened it. After that, you won't get these little things. So if you've already opened it, you won't be getting these little welcome things. So let me just close this box from here. Okay, there we go. And now we should all be at a place where at least we have our file open in front of us. Some of us will have pink behind our fonts and some of us will not, but this is the beginning document that I want us to get to. And let me point out that down here, a big red button that says one error. That's because we haven't found our files and stuff yet. And so we're already seeing that there's an error. Remember, it warned us there was a missing link. Okay, I'm going to stop my share. And Jenny, you go ahead and share yours. I am aware that it's time very soon to give the first break. So go ahead and let me remind everyone who arrived late. Jenny, go ahead and give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, give me a second here. Let me just remind everyone first that normally I'll be giving you a 15-minute break in the middle of the class. But today, remember, I'm going to go an extra hour. So I'm gonna still give you the 15-minute break within the middle of the class. And hold on, don't do too much more because you're doing stuff and I'm trying to speak to everyone and I don't want to get into more trouble. Click on the word student desktop here. Click on the left on student desktop. And then I'll finish with my message because I'm worried that you're doing stuff. Don't, no, yeah. On the left where it says running and available on the big tab there. Yeah, click on student, come down. Where's your mouse? Up. Yeah, there. Click on student desktop. And let it sit there and it's connecting. And if it doesn't connect, then we have to re-sign into, there it is. Cool, there you are. So go back to Bridge. So that go down here at the bottom where it says this PC, and then I'll give you guys the warning about the break. Go to the, see in the bottom bar where it says this PC, move your mouse down. Okay, and you have Adobe InDesign and this PC. You see that? So go down to this PC, BR, this PC, down. You might have Zoom tools in the way. If you don't see it, you might have some stuff in the way because we're seeing it. There we go. Now go to Google Drive, which is your third choice. 1, 2, 3. Double click. Now shared drives. Double click. Now digital sign techniques on the left side. Double click. And then once it all pops up, the first folder. Say don't send report. Okay. Now double click on the top, class files, digital design techniques. Double click. And then brochure, handle, and pedal, double click. And then the first one, double click the InDesign file, and let's see if it kicks open InDesign again and see if this time it stays. It's going to take a time to open. So now you're there. So I'm going to stop, just leave it there happening while I talk to everyone. And let's see if it goes in. Okay, so guys, what I was going to say is I'm going to still give you the 15-minute break in the middle of what would have been the middle of the until the 8:15 class, because some of you will stay, some of you won't. And then before we get on to that last hour, we can take a small 5-minute break to just kind of refresh and then do the last hour. Okay. So InDesign detected, say the file will be repair. Oh, wait, go back to InDesign. Yeah, don't change. So you have a different one. It says the file is damaged. Would you like us to try and repair the file? Why would it be damaged? Oh, you know what? You probably didn't disconnect from your Google Drive. You probably didn't do the disconnect from your Google Drive, Jenny, and reset. Say no, because that's not going to work. And we'll have to, did you do the whole process of disconnecting and signing into your Google Drive again? Jenny?
I did do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to do it again. Let's go back to that little arrow on the far right. Okay, let's do this. I'll give everyone a break while I work with Jenny to get hers set up again. Is anyone else having issues with their file not showing up or something? Then hang around for a little bit. Otherwise, let's take our break, everyone. It's 6:54. Let's be back at 7. So I'm going to write break until 7:10. And I'll try to get Jenny set up. Okay, so let me see. Go over to, oh, you closed Bridge.
No, oh, shoot. Okay.
That's okay. Relax.
Here,
Yeah, go open Bridge again. It'll open. It's fine.
I was trying to fix my Zoom toolbar, but
that's okay. That's all right. It's opening. It's opening. Don't. It's opening.
Oh,
It takes its
okay.
time. It takes a little bit of time. Well, that's happening though. Let's go and reset your Google Drive because somehow it wasn't. So go to the bottom right. I mean, I'm saying it's opening because you already went there once. I'm assuming it's already opening. Okay, go and reset your Google Drive. Yeah, click on that. Go up to the gears. Preferences. Disconnect account. Okay. Now go down to that little arrow again, click on Google Drive. Oh, it's not disconnecting.
Yeah.
Something is really not. Okay. Okay, no, it doesn't keep doing it. It's, hey. Okay, give me a sec here. I'm gonna ask, I'm doing something called request remote control. Can you say approve for a
Mhm.
second?
Yep.
Okay, let me see. Design seems to be giving you lots of nested. I'm gonna close in design, which is what is this thing here? Browser tool. I don't want that. Okay. Feel almost like we should reconnect. Go over here. There we go. Now it's disconnected. Okay. Now go ahead and, is that you?
Hmm.
Allow. Okay. It's still not there. There it is. Put in your files. Okay. So now it's connected again. Let's go and open Google Drive, Bridge. And let's see. Not rich, but it's not. Wow. Bridge, your programs are not wanting to, I need to disconnect and connect again. I think maybe when you just disconnected from Verizon. Okay, I'm gonna log you out and have you log back in to the whole EDI because
Okay.
it's just not kicking in. Okay. What browser are you using?
This one.
Is it Google? I mean, no, not that. Like, is this thing a Google browser or what browser?
Yeah,
are you
Google.
using?
Yeah, Google.
Okay. All right, let's try it one more time. Click on it and you know what? Hold on. I'm tempted to just close the browser. Let's just close the browser and open it up again. Start truly from
Okay.
0. So now open up the browser again and then go to VDI and reset it. Worst case scenario, I don't want to get there, but you might actually have to restart your whole computer. Now, because I closed the browser, the share has stopped. Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to do it and tell me where you're at.
Okay.
And we'll try to get you there. All right. Let me know where you're at. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna have some coffee. I might sit.
It's what is it? VMI? There we go.
VM View.
Okay.
.sbcc.edu. So I was teaching a class right before this one, and someone who lives in Goleta was telling me how it started just, the wind was coursing, just going crazy through her trees and through everything. And I was like, no, totally fine over here. I'm on the east side. And now the wind is just killing us over here. So
Oh, the
it's
wind
been
was
for a while.
crazy. It was crazy driving on the
It-
freeway
Yeah.
because I'm in San Ynez, and it was just really bad.
All right. So how are you? Where are you at?
I am here. Let me share again. So it's barely. I'm loading.
Actually, yeah. Don't share yet.
Don't share. Okay.
Sharing makes it harder. As long as everything is normal, do it without sharing because it's easier for your computer to do all the connection without also having to deal with sharing. If you run into trouble, then definitely start sharing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But let's see if we can get through. All right, where you at?
It's barely loading. It's still just barely loading.
It's doing the whole, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's better not to do it with this thing on. I teach Photoshop, Illustrator,
Okay. So I go
Dreamweaver,
to Bridge.
Dreamweaver, Mag, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. The only problem I have usually is InDesign is the one where I really. Okay, so where are you?
Going into Bridge.
All right.
Okay. And then I go to the InDesign, correct?
Go to the file, go to Bridge, go to Google Drive. Now, if you want to share, go ahead and share.
Okay.
This PC, go to on the left side to this PC. It's gray. It's a weird, yeah, this PC. There we go, this PC. The third one is Google Drive. I'm hoping that the reconnect we did sticks with it and we don't need to reconnect again. Okay, my drive, shared drive, sorry. My shared drives. Design techniques. This one takes a while. Double click on class files. And now, top left folder, 01 brochure. And let's give it one last try, double click again. Now, that one will take a while because what it's doing, it's kicking open InDesign, and InDesign is slow. So just kick back and wait it out. Let's see if this time it does the normal process. All right.
So Diana, so with this
Yes.
class, because I'm coming in with like very little experience except, the little things here
Mhm.
and there. With this class, what
Okay,
happened?
hold on. Oh, good, you're in a good spot now. Now you can say okay to that. That's just the regular relink one. And hold on. Missing fonts. What we're just gonna do is, okay, just say skip. Okay, great. So now you have the example where your fonts are surrounded by pink. See how the thing that I said before,
Yeah.
which is fine, but this is exactly where you have to be. So that's good. Now you have 3 more minutes. Go, run, stretch, be back in 3 minutes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Let's stop your share. I'll stop your share. There we go. Okay, great.
Hey, Diana,
Yes.
you want to know a fun little tip for resolutions and stuff? And
Always.
over the years, I've kind of I found this out. Adobe Fireworks can also resize images and even cut down the JPEG file size to half the size, especially when you're working on resizing your images, getting them ready to use. And that's something I've kind of used over the years, is when I've been in a pinch to lower file size, is use Adobe Fireworks to,
Mhm. Well, Adobe Fireworks is really, really old school, meaning there's many better ways to do it right now. It works, but it's
but
basically a
the point
discontinued
is
product.
it can cut it, it can lower the JPEG size half the size more than Photoshop. That's the point I was trying to make.
Well, yes and no. The point I'm trying to make is, yes, that's a great point. And the other point I'm trying to make is that there's better products right now to do that same thing. So yes, it's a great idea, but it's probably, I'm not sure. Let me see, when was it last made? It's probably going to stop working.
Well, I have CS6. I have CS6.
Yeah,
and
so
I have
you have CS6, and if, as long as you don't keep updating your operating system and you keep working with CS6, you're fine. But like like I had to move on from CS6 many years ago when I just couldn't upgrade anymore my operating system. I had a computer that wouldn't take anything higher than that, so I actually had to buy a new computer. So when you start upgrading and moving up, then you can't keep using those old things. So if like someone in this class who doesn't have an old system tries to get Fireworks, they probably can't get it to work right now, but there's others. So it's a great idea. As I'm saying, your point is well made, but now there's other stuff that does it. Like I use, is it Optim, Image Optim is the one I use right now, which beyond what Photoshop does, it does, it compresses it even beyond the Photoshop compression. So the point is that there's other replacements for Fireworks, but the idea of using something beyond Photoshop is what I'm commending, but maybe with newer software for people who don't have the old stuff. That's all. But yeah, as long as you're still using CS6 and your computer can run it, then you're fine. I'll teach you how to do it to the max inside of Photoshop, which has a much better system now, which as CS6, you might not have that system in your Photoshop, but for people who have the new version of Photoshop itself does a lot more compression than the CS6 to do. But then there's always these things that optimize it even an extra little turn. It's like you squish that down a little bit more. And that's what that kind of thing does. All right, so guys, it's 7:10. So if you're out there kind of listening in, please come back. Jenny might still be a few more minutes because we basically finished a few minutes ago. We had 3 minutes left of break.
I'm here.
You're still here?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
here.
And Johnny was, in case you were listening, was mentioning some other programs that let you do something beyond what, bit more compression, but I haven't really talked about compression yet. So I don't want to bring in, when I talk about compression, I'll bring in his conversation again. Right now, we were just having general conversations about resolution. Once you go to the internet, you have to go and beyond just taking pixels out, you also have to compress. And Photoshop does a lot of compression. There's some tools that do even more. So I'll tell you all about that when we get to that. Is everyone kind of back? I'm seeing a couple of videos turning on, so yay. Just give me a little thumbs up if you're there. If I see signs of life back there, make sure everyone is home. Hi, Mary again, Carol. Little, I'm back from my coffee break. I've walked around the block. I usually try to walk around the block, but let me ask you a favor. Let me put in a timer. I need to put in a timer for 8:15 because since I know in my brain I'm going to go longer, I might not remember to tell you. So I want to be able to tell you at 8:15, hey guys, those of you who need to leave, it's time to go, and the rest of you can stay. So now I put a timer on for that, so I won't pass by. All right. So does everyone have okay, so what we had to do with Jenny, because things just weren't working, and in the end it might need to happen with Mary, was it you who was not having the box that we had to say escape to? Yeah.
Yes.
So it might end up being that you end up having to do a Jenny, which is basically I had to have her not just close Photoshop and InDesign, she actually had to close her whole VDI, close her Chrome browser, open it up again, reconnect to VDI and reconnect to everything, and now it's working. Sometimes connection just needs to be reset, and now it's working for her. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And since I saw that she only had a couple of minutes left, I kind of said, okay, just say okay to that. So in Jenny's case, I told her not to do all the font replacements in that initial screen. So most of us, it says 1 error. In yours, it says 4 errors, right, Jenny? Down at the bottom where I'm pointing at the errors. I think yours said 4 errors. Some of you guys might have a different number of errors depending on. Here, I'm moving.
Yes, mine says 4 errors.
Yeah, I was finding this little spotlight again. I have to go get it from this weird Zoom place. So here we go. So down here where mine says 1 error. Remember at the beginning, we said you need to import an image, and then we said, okay, I got it that you're missing an image. That's the error that I have. And then we had 3 fonts that were missing. We said replace. If you said replace fonts, those errors are gone. But in Jenny's case, I just said, just say okay to that, skip that. So if you skip that, those 3 fonts are the next 3 errors. So she has 4 errors down there. So down there, that kind of tells you things that are wrong. Okay, so that little spot here is very important to tell you what, something's wrong in your file. You need to deal with it, kind of thing. All right. So some of you who have different issues with your fonts, you might have 1 or 4 errors. But the whole point is I didn't really care too much, because I'll show you now where else you go to fix all those issues. You can just say forget it and then replace the fonts without those little windows, and replace the fonts when you're inside. Okay. People are getting different windows. Once you're inside, you all fix it from the same place. So I wasn't too concerned about what different kind of windows you guys have. Now, what I'm trying to show you is a little bit beyond the fonts or the errors. It's, yay, finally we're in InDesign. How many of you guys have opened InDesign before? A few of you guys have. 1, 2, little thumbs up. Those of you who don't have videos, you have to like show signs of life with your little emoticons and stuff. All right, so not many. Quite a few of you would say Photoshop, or maybe a few of you would say Illustrator, but not many have done InDesign. So when you first open it, right now we opened it with a product that's already open. It's looking kind of weird. Does this look like a brochure? Well, it's kind of a brochure, but there's all these lines and boxes and things. This is a template that things are ready to go into, but we're not seeing all of it. So the first thing I want you to know how to do is a series of shortcuts that we're going to use no matter if you're in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, no matter where you are, they're all the same shortcuts. In fact, these shortcuts are also almost moved on. They're so iconic that many other programs are adopting them. But if you want to zoom in and out, right now, one of the best things you can learn is learn how to do shortcuts. And if you do shortcuts with your keyboard, you're going to be much more efficient than if you try to go find a thing with your mouse. So if you're on this is the one big difference between Mac and PCs is your shortcut key. So you look at your keyboard. If you're on a Mac, you have the space bar, and to the left and to the right, you have the command key. And then one app open from that, you have the option keys, right? And then on the left side, you have a control key. All right, that's the Mac keyboard. On a PC, you have next to the space bars, you're going to have the Alt key, and then you're going to have the control key, right? PC people. All right, you're missing the one called command, that's all. All right, so what's going to happen is that when you do a shortcuts, you need to hold down the command key if you're on a Mac or the control key if you're in a PC, except for people on VDI. Because on VDI, you're all on PCs, okay? That's the only difference. Even though you might be using a Mac, we're really inside of a PC computer. So people on VDI I have to say, people on VDI are on PCs. So you hold down the control key, even if you're on a Mac. Does that make sense? So only the people at home on a Mac get to hold down the command key. Everyone else, if you're on a PC at home or at school, you hold down the control key. All right, so hold down the control or the command key, depending where you are. And now on the top of the key and right next to the numbers, you see the pluses and the minus signs, like right next to the 0890, then it says minus or plus. So watch, if I hit, I'm holding on the control or the command key, minus, minus, minus. Oh, by the way, you have to make sure that Windows or InDesign is clicked on. Then I'm making the screen much smaller. And then I hit the plus, 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 I'm making the screen much bigger. Okay, so down, 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 down with the minus, or up, 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 up with the plus. Is that working for you guys?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can click and hold it. Like if you just hold it down, it goes up and down real fast, or you just tap, tap, tap your way through. Okay, so now make it really tiny. Make it really tiny, and this is as small as you can go. And notice that there's a big box around the windows that have some color. And if you go a little bit bigger, you'll see it better. There's just like this box there, right? So that whole area is the area that's live and then designed for us to work with. Not only do we have our page, which in this case is a page divided into 3 portions because it's going to be a trifold brochure. Not only do we have this one page, but we also have the paste board. All this gray area is the paste board. So, you know, I've kind of talked before about a collage where you put a piece of paper in the middle and then you grab a little red piece of paper, you grab a white piece of cloth, you grab, I don't know, many might have never done a collage, but you can visualize, you have elements around yourself. And then you have the piece that you're putting things on. So this is kind of like the page is your final piece, and the paste board is where you can put little elements that you're working on to drag in and out. But just so you know, all those things that you leave out there, still weigh down the file. So when you know you don't need it anymore, you get rid of it, right? But that paste board is really useful. And no matter how many pages you have, the paste board is all one. So it's all an active work area. Out here, nothing, but this is all active work area. All right. Now, if I want to go ahead and fill my page again with the actual page, my screen, then I can just do a shortcut, which is Control or Command and tap the 0. And then that just fills my screen. So I can be up, 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 or down, 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 down. And when I really want to just see everything again, I hit the Command and Control 0. And that brings me back to fill in my screen with the image. Okay. So now this is something that's going to be the same for Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. The shortcuts are 99.9% of them are universal to all the programs. There's only 1 or 2 here that are a little bit different, but for the most part, they're the same. Then with your mouse, you can scroll up and down to move things, but for the most part, it's more, if you don't have, like, if you have a magic, like a Mac mouse can let you move sideways like this, but many times PC mice don't let you move sideways. So the other way to move sideways or up and down, so say that you are zoomed in, Command plus plus plus, right? And now you want to go down to see the text down there. The quickest way to kind of what we call pan around to move inside of an image, because I'm not seeing what I want to see, I'm going to move over, is to use the hand tool. But if you have to go get the hand tool, that's too much work. So how to get the hand tool really quickly is to hold down the space bar. Your mouse turns into a hand, and then you kind of click and drag your way. So you hold down the space bar and you get a little hand that you can now click and drag until you see what you want to see, or you click and drag up here. Okay, so this would only work if you see too much. So if you're zoomed down, then the hand tool doesn't move you anywhere because you're seeing everything. So you have to be at bigger than screen size to have something to scooch over to. So hold down the space bar and click and drag and move your way around. Okay. Again, this is completely a hands-on. Yeah, scooching. It's called panning your way from one way to the other. When you want to stay in that same magnification, but when you want to zoom in or out, that's Control minus, Control plus, or Control 0. These, write them down, practice them. They are iconic. We will use them all the time, because Plan B, you have to go all the way over here with your mouse to the toolbar to find the little hand. Click on the hand, then go over here, scooch over one way or the other. Click over here, zoom in, zoom out. And what happens is that that's really inefficient with our time. And so certain shortcuts are universal and should be used all the time, all across the board. Okay, so now whatever program we over first is going to be a learning curve because it's the first time you see it, but everything you're learning applies all across the board. So that's really cool. Now over here, what we have is a whole bunch of lines and stuff that become really hard to understand. If I just want to see what this brochure is looking without all these lines, which who knows what I'm seeing, I'll explain in a minute what one of these are. Just hold down, just tap the W key of your keyboard. Just tap the W. And when you tap the W, I'm going to go down a little bit smaller. This is actually what we have on the design at this point. We have a piece of paper that is going to be, and of all times that I always have tons of sampling papers here. I don't have one, but imagine it's an 8.5-11 paper. It's going to be a trifold. So each one of these is going to be one of the panels on the brochure. Does that make sense? But it was hard to see when you had all those lines and boxes and frames and guides. So those are necessary for us to know how to build a thing. But when you want to go see what's happening, you hit the W and you go, oh, okay, so this is what I've got up till to now as far as I'm designed. Now I need to go back to work mode. So I hit the W again and I get all the lines and frames and boxes again. Does that make sense? So whenever you're really trying to see, did I center it or not? You can't see if you centered it with boxes and stuff. So you hit the W and you look at it. Oh yeah, that logo is centered. Okay, good. And then you do like that again. Does that, it's a visually helps you.
Diana, so you would
Yes.
call that shortcut work mode? Is that work mode? Or what would you call it?
No, so the way, see down here at the very bottom of all of these tools and choices right there, you can see normal view, preview, bleed, slug, presentation. There's all these different modes. And to get to them, that's normal, preview. That's the one we just saw, preview. Click and hold. Bleed. It shows you another mode. Click and hold. Slug, I'll tell you what all these things are. Right now, this doesn't have bleed or slug, and that's why you don't see a difference. Or, and this is the biggest one, presentation mode. It fills your screen. All your tools go away. This is the one if you're trying to show this to a client or something, like they're trying to see what your brochure is like. They don't want to see all the tools and all the stuff. So you go all the way down to that. And then when you want to go back to the normal mode, you have to go Shift W. Hold down the Shift key and then tap W and then you move it. So Shift W eliminates everything except for what you're designing. And then you do Shift W again to see everything, and then the W brings you back. So W on its own shifts back and forth. Shift W takes everything out of the way and brings everything back.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
so I'm just changing different views to the one that's more useful to us. I have never been able to show someone who doesn't understand in design, tries to see their design like this, and they have no idea what you're doing. So when someone's looking over your shoulder, you just eliminate the tools and stuff and you see it. Or for yourself to find, how am I doing with my piece? You just want to get rid of all the mess and just see it. I just don't use the Shift W too much. I just use the W all the time because I just want to see how things are heading and then I go back up. All right. So you might notice a couple of other things here that we're going to be talking about is that these boxes have different sizes and shapes. So we're going to be explaining what all these things are. But a lot of that I want to explain to you with a basic file starting from 0. So right now, I'm going to get us to put some things in here to just kind of walk out feeling like we've made some progress on a particular shape and to see how things come from Photoshop and Illustrator and Word to put a final piece together. We're going to take some more steps to make it final. But first of all, we have some text here already that says product overview. We have an image right here. We have some text that, has already been set up. But we have frames. All these boxes that you see here are frames. So go ahead and grab, make sure you might already have it. But the first tool that we want to use is the top tool, which is the black arrow tool. That black arrow tool is our hand in Photoshop. It's a selection tool. We have the selection tool and then we have the direct selection tool, which is the white one. We're going to basically use the black one most of the time. And when you're in any tool, no matter what tool you're in, so let's go and click on some other tool. Say I'm here where this little eyedropper is. What's that? So say I'm here in the eyedropper tool, right? We'll talk later about what all these are, but I'm in another tool. And when I'm done with that tool, I immediately need to change and kind of go back home to my home tool, which is the direct selection key. So there's a shortcut. Watch what I'm going to happen. I'm going to hit the V for the vase, and I'm going to hit the V and boom. See the tool that got selected? The black arrow tool. So it's very important. I'm going to go and have the hand tool on, and then I'm going to hit the V and I'm back. Now I want to go to the text tool, and then I hit the V and I go back. So that V becomes kind of like going home to the safe tool, the one that doesn't do anything dangerous or weird. So you want to kind of live in that tool. And again, instead of taking your mouse all the way to grab the V, the selection tool, then just hit the V on your keyboard. All of these have shortcuts. All these tools have shortcuts, and many times they're very obvious. Like if you hit the T, you end up in the text tool. See over there? If you hit the P, you're in the pen tool. If you hit the, the I, you're in the eyedropper tool, and so on and so forth. But the one that really matters is the V, because we're going to want to use that one all the time. So when I say, okay, go pick up your selection tool or your V tool, that's what I mean. And when I say scooch over a little bit with your hand tool, hit the space bar. So those are things that you want to become have become second nature. All right. So now with the V or selection tool in our hands, notice that you can click on some of these things. Right now I clicked on this little line here and this box opened up. Now I'm going to click here on this area. Hold on. I'm going to click here on this little area over here, and this box kind of lit up. I'm going to hit on this handle and pedal. I have a mouse that is driving me crazy. It's making things shift back and forth. I'm going to change mouse. So I'm going to click on this one. And so every time I use my selection tool to click on these things that I'm clicking are called frames. Frames are placeholders. So this is a frame that is a placeholder for text. This is a frame that's a placeholder for an image. This one here, if I click down here, see this one pops up, that's a placeholder for an image. They're just waiting. It's a template. It's ready to have things pop in. Okay. But down here, I'm clicking on this gray area here and there's just nothing here. There's no frame turning on. Just about anywhere else that I click, some kind of frame turns on. The only place that nothing turns on is in this gray area. I'll tell you a bit why later, but for now, just it's the only neutral area. So we're going to use this little neutral area to practice bringing in a little bit of text. Okay, so writing a little bit of text. So I'm going to want to write some text here. So today we're going to bring in some text, we're going to replace some text, and we're going to bring in some images to just figure out how to put things together. So let's go to the type tool or text tool, or hit the T to go to the type tool or text tool, whichever way you want. And I want to write something. So when I put my mouse over here, look at what happened. This is very important in all of them, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, but mainly for InDesign and Illustrator. Your mouse turns on and takes on different shapes depending on where it's at. So look over here. It's just a little eye. Ignore the white. I'm going to take off that white dot because for this part, it's important that you guys don't see that red dot because it's kind of weird. Okay, so now I'm going to put the text tool again. I have this. Okay, so with the type tool over here, it looks like a big old uppercase I. Over here, I have an uppercase I with a round circle. Over here, I have the uppercase I with a black. See how my mouse changes depending on what I'm hovering on top of? So you have to keep an eye always on what your icon is doing, because depending on what it's hovering over, it's about to do something different. So in this case, I'm about to create a text box of my own because there's none here. So if I want to write, I don't just click, I click and drag and make a little text box. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to click and drag. So if you just click, it kind of goes blip, blip, and nothing happens. You can't write with the type tool that way. You need to click and drag and make yourself some space for your text. Everything in InDesign has to be held by a box, by a frame. And we just created a text frame. And right at the top of it, there's a little cursor blinking. And that cursor is basically saying, please start writing. So let's write something. I'm going to write, let's write something here. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to write something here. Now, however that writing comes out will depend on whatever default font was set up in your document. We kind of created the Minion Pro to be our default font. Those of you who did that with me. Others of you like Jenny who didn't say that, you might have another font coming out, but whatever font you have, we right now had no control over it. We just started writing and whatever font was set up for us was written there. So what if we don't want this font that we wrote in? We have to change it. But first, let me say that once you finish writing something, notice that now, if I go back to my V or selection tool, which I'm going to do by hitting the V, right? So here, the only time the V doesn't work is when I'm actively writing, because look what happened. I wrote a V. Does that make sense? So the only time all these single things that I've been showing you doesn't work is when you're actively writing, but we don't really actively write a lot in InDesign. You might write a sentence, but then you move it around, you did it, but the act of writing usually happens in Word and all the text gets brought in or something like that, or you write a headline and then you're done. So this isn't usually a problem, but right now that we were actively writing, the V didn't work. So I'm going to delete that V and I'm actually going to click on the top or V selection tool. And now you see that we have our text inside of a text box. That's the box that we created. Now I'm going to click back here and see how it deselects. I can select or deselect. The problem is that there's so many boxes that usually something else gets selected. So when I want to deselect cleanly, I should be deselecting on the pasteboard. Click on the gray area back there and that's like, phew, now nothing is selected. Okay. So it's kind of my neutral area is that pasteboard area. Remember I showed you that gray area outside of the document? That's where you want to click when you don't want anything to be selected. Now let's select that box of text again and watch that when I select my box of text, over here on the right, I have a bunch of choices of how to change my text. I can change the font, the paragraph sizing, alignment, appearance, all of this appeared. Now let's deselect that by clicking here on some neutral gray area. And look at that, this changed tremendously. There's not a single tool here that had to do with text. Does that make sense? I click, there we go. A ton of different choices. I click away, they're all gone. Now I'm going to click on this box here, which is also a text box because it says product overview. So now I know there's text in there. And again, they all pop in, they're available for me. Click away, they're gone. Now this here might look like text, but really it's a logo that's been brought in from Illustrator. So I'm going to click on this box now and notice that I don't have any text choices. What I see here is totally different than if I click on a text box where I see the choices to change my text. So depending on what kind of box is there, so I'm going to click on this white area, I can see this is not a text box because there's no choice for text versus this one is a choice for text. Okay, so just trying to show you how the properties panel becomes a panel that gives you the tools needed depending on what you're clicking on. It's a contextual tool kind of panel, so it'll always be changing based on what you need. But based on what you need is based on what you select. So your selection is very important. So if I now select this box, can I tell what kind of text box this, or sorry, what kind of frame this might be based on what's showing up in my panel?
Text box.
It's a, I gave it away almost by saying what kind of text box this is. It's a text frame because I have a bunch of text tools, right? So how do we create these frames? Well, you create them with some of these tools. These have been created for us. We're going to create them ourselves, but right now we have been created for us. And this I can tell is ready for text because of what happens in the properties panel. This I can tell is ready for an image because of what I have in here. And now we're gonna, we've already written this text. Now we're gonna modify it. Now the text that's gonna be modified right now is everything that's in my box, okay? Because I'm selecting my box, not my individual word, like just the word here or something. I'm actually just selecting the whole text box. And I'm gonna go over here and I can change to another font. So over here it says Minion Pro or whatever yours says. I can click on that little arrow and I can go ahead and choose something else with what's called Live Text Preview. And Live Text Preview means it's showing me the font as I hover over these different things. And here's some funky little font called Matura. Here's the Minion Pro, here's Mistral, which is a little text. Now it's all pretty tiny, right? So if I want to really see it better, maybe I should change the font size. So I'm going to go and click away. So see what I did? I don't want these choices, so I have to click away. Click away means click on some neutral area. Neutral, remember, not in these frames or boxes, but neutral. So this gray area is really always nice as neutral. Because if I click on this, then I've changed my selection to something else, right? So you really want to try to not click on other places. The only thing that's neutral is usually the pasteboard. All right. So let's make this font bigger first. So instead of 12 points, I'm going to go in here and maybe make it 30 points and see how it applies to everything because I'm selecting the text frame. Then I'm going to go back in here and play around a little bit more and choose some other font that's available for me. And notice that some fonts are fonts that are just what are called glyph fonts. They're just art pieces, right? Anyway, so we're not going to use one of those. Let's I'm going to write in, let's say this one's called Museo. So I'm going to go with Museo. You choose whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Choose a font and a size that you want. This is just a test box to feel what it's like to make changes. Now, there's a couple of other choices here that we can make in here with respect to text. And the one that you might recognize from Word is whether you want your font to be aligned left, aligned center, or aligned right. Center, left, or right. But we have even more choices here. There's all the justify. We're accustomed maybe to seeing only one option for justify. Justify is when the text becomes a block. And with this little bit of writing, it's going to be a little bit hard. Because when you use justify with a tiny bit of writing, it gets full of these weird spaces, right? So we have to be careful with justify. And this is blocky with the last line in the middle, or blocky with the last line in the midst, or force justify, where everything becomes really bizarre. So you have to have a lot of text and tiny columns to maybe use the justify, but they're there. And then you have a line towards spine or against spine. And this has to do with when you have a book or something like that, when you can't really tell left or right, because many times left or right is like, well, left or right on the right side of the page or the other side of the page. So anyway, these are all like little align things. Let's go back to the basic alignment of align left. And let me show you a little bit more here of some. So InDesign and Illustrator are the master places to deal with text. If you ever thought you had control over text in like any other program, you have not seen anything until you hit InDesign. Then you can move every single little bit. Everything you ever wanted to change in the world of text, you can do in InDesign. So the small amount of choices are these four. When you want even more choices, whenever you see 3 dots here, you just have more options. So over here, I'm going to click on that. And these are all different options that I have for my type. If I go to paragraph and I click those little that's all the choices I have for my type. Okay. When I don't want to see all my choices, I click on those 3 dots again and I collapse that. So that's how you get more advanced choices or a basic set of choices. Okay. So now we want the basic set of choices for this, but let's go ahead and show you the difference between leading over here. So this one is leading. If you hover over it for a little bit, it'll give you the tooltip that says leading. And more than knowing the name, the little icon is basically showing you that there's a little arrow between one line and another. So leading is the distance between the lines. So I'm going to go ahead and use these little arrows to make there be more distance between the lines, and see how let's write something here is getting more and more separate from each other. And now I'm going to go down to make less leading, so less space between the lines. Okay, so I can also click over here and just add numbers. So if, maybe this is important, watch, I'm going to put a number 60 in there. And what happened to this is that I lost the word here because I gave so much space, right, that the text overflowed my text box. Does that make sense? I gave it too much space. Now, InDesign says, sure, I'll give it that space. You're asking me to, go ahead. But it lost some of my text. If you might remember, I'm going to go back to 30 points. I had let's write something here. So when I then changed that to 60 points, I lost my word. So be very careful, because when it's not text that you wrote, how do you know that something's missing? Okay, this is crucial. How do I know? Many times you write the stuff, but many times you're designing someone else's words. There's a visual cue that something is missing. And it's that little tiny box that turned on, that little plus sign. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I mean. See that? I mean, the box doesn't get any bigger, but see that little plus sign in red? I'm going to move it back to 30. And that little box is white. There's nothing there. All my text is fitting. Now I'm going to move it back to 60, and that little plus sign turns on. And what that means is it's warning me that there's overset text. There's text that's not appearing. It's the only visual cue that I have that something's wrong and that I'm not seeing all my text. Because other than that, I don't know, it looks good to me. What if this was written in another language and I'm having to design it anyway? You can design things without knowing the language as long as you pay attention to these visual cues. So one way to solve this is to make my frame bigger. So I'm going to put my mouse on this little, go over here, and I'm going to pull it out a bit until there you go. There it was. It was there all along. It was just needing to be shown. Does that make sense? So I can just use my mouse to make my text frame smaller, and it's like I block everything else out. Or I can make it bigger, and now I see everything. All right.
Diana, I think I pressed something. I have this weird something on my screen.
Okay, since I can't
I-
understand
can I
what the
share?
weird something is, go ahead and share. yeah.
Okay, I think it's the type of, it's these black things. I think it's the type of text. But I
Oh,
started
how
to type
interesting.
and I don't know
Okay,
what that is.
so
I
hold
did
on,
the
hold
same
on.
thing. I hit the instead of hitting the fill or the text, I hit the, what are the edge called?
Oh, the stroke and stuff.
The
Okay, so
stroke, yeah.
stop for a minute. Stop for a minute. The first thing I want to teach you guys, don't click anything else, don't do anything else. The first mistake you make, or weird thing that happens that you make, the first thing you shouldn't do, because maybe you didn't even do anything and something weird happens, but most of the times it's something that we do. You need to know how to undo. And without clicking on anything else, the most important things that shortcut beyond any other is the undo, which is going to be Control for the PC or people on VDI, or Command for the Mac. Hold it down and then hold the letter Z for zebra. Not hold, tap the letter Z. So go ahead and Control tap the Z and see how that disappeared, and Control tap again. You seem to have another box up there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that one is, but keep tapping away. You keep holding down the control and then you keep hitting tap. There you go, until they
Okay.
disappeared. See how fine? So basically you're undo until the problem is over. And now you start again. It's always 100% easier, especially if you don't know what you did, to undo than to try to fix it. Because
Okay.
because I don't even know what that blotch was like. So undo, and now open up the text frame and drag. So now you have the type tool on your hand, and click and drag out a type frame again, a text frame again. Not
Okay.
there, but on the gray spot. Go ahead and drag out another type. You've got the type tool. Drag it out, and then I'll keep an eye. Yep. And now just write some words, and I'm just keeping an eye to see if anything here is happening to show that same thing again. But no. Okay, write at least, 5 or 6 words so that we have some words to play with, not just hello, or you won't be able to see letting and then that kind of stuff. So everyone needs to have, because you saw that I'm showing you a bit more than just one sentence, one line, just one word. Give me some words. Okay, so now, hello, you're new to this. You have, if you go change right now, I'm going to stop your share because this is perfect. If you, well, actually, let me use your share for a second.
Okay.
Go, you have your type, she still has her type tool in her hands, right? Go and try to change the font. Go over to the right and try to change the font. Everyone pay attention. She's still got the type tool. Try to change the font and choose anything. Just drag it up and down. You see how nothing's changing in her text, you guys? Because when you have the type tool, or try to change the size, which is even more visibly obvious, go to the number 12 points and try to change the size. Nothing is happening. Why? Because when you have the type tool in your hands, the only thing that changes is the text that's selected, and no text is selected. Okay. So that's why you need to shift back to your selection tool. So go up to the selection tool, which is the top left. And now the frame is what you're changing. Now go back to your font, and now you will be able to change fonts. So not there, not there, not there, nothing from there. For now, nothing from there. Go down. Okay, you lost your selection, so go click on the hello, I'm new to this again. Perfect. And now go a little bit lower for care. Yeah, there. That's your font. And now when you drag up and down, not from there, not from there. Stop. The box that you're using, click again on your hello, I'm new to this box, because now it disappeared. There you go. So you can select your text. So stop for a minute before you keep going. Go to the right. You kind of scooched over, go to your panels, and notice that there's this thing called appearance that you're choosing 0 points or whatever. Ignore the appearance portion of it and go down to where it says character.
Okay.
That's where all your font and text and stuff is. So click on that to change to another font. Hello, I'm new to this. Now go down there to the 12 points. That's your font size and make it big. There you go. And that's where I was showing the leading. That's the only other one I showed, which is on the right side where you put the 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
So go to where, and the one, no, one above, one up, right
This
next
one?
to, yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the leading. And that's the one that spreads out the lines, spaces out the lines. Okay. And there you go. That you
Okay.
made it tighter or closer. Okay. So
Okay.
I just thank you for sharing. I just wanted to show you guys how important it is, why you would do it with a type tool versus the selection tool.
If you highlight the text, would it do the same thing?
Yes, but, and it's a great point. Yes, but it's harder. Let me just show you one more example why this is a better way, and then I'll
Okay.
show you with highlighting the text. So I'm going to go select my text again because I had deselected it. If I want to change for example, if I want to now change, I'm looking here, I changed the leading, I changed any of these things that have to do with type, that has to do with the paragraph or the character. I can change the whole frame. But if I now try to change the color of this text, right?
Turn on the other light,
So,
please.
hold on, let me mute you for a second. There we go. Okay, so if I now try to change the color of this text, right? I go over here and I look at color, and you might or not know from other programs that this thing called fill changes color. Some of you who maybe know Illustrator or something else. So you might think that that be color, but let me show you for a second. If I click on this thing that is saying no color, so just watch this piece. Click on no color. If I click on fill, my colors appear. And if I were to change it, say to this blue color, look what's happening. I am selecting my frame. So although all the formatting worked for all the text that's inside of it, when I try to change the color of this, it still applies to the frame. So my text isn't changing color. Does that make sense? Because it's a frame. So when I want to change the text color, for example, I will have to select that text. So now I don't want any color. So in order to not want any color, I have to choose none again. So go ahead and choose none. Now, what's up though, is that I do have a choice. See where it says apply to frame? Right here, do you see my mouse? And so of course, a color applied to frame, I could go in here and change that and say apply it to my text. And now I can say blue text. Does that make sense? So the fill is always for color, but you have to choose if you're applying it to text or to frame. So now it's going to work, or I'm going to change it to pink, or I'm going to change it to red or yellow. If instead I wanted to change my frame, then I'll do, and I'll have us choice. I'll teach you guys how to make new colors and stuff like that. But so this is frame and text. Now, for the most part, we rarely ever color our text frames because the text appears right next to the edges like that. And so usually you wouldn't want a box like this. At most, if you want something like this, you would want it to have the, you know, the text have a nice edge around it or something. So this rarely happens. There's occasions where we need it for certain things, but for the most part, what you're going to want to do in this case is give the text frame no color and maybe draw a box behind it with color and then center the text on top of it if you want that effect of a framed text, right? So now let's go ahead and put the text color back to black, which is what it started as. I think, it was black when we started, right? Yeah. Put it back as black. Okay. And now when we want this box to be done because we don't need it anymore, the solution was to click in some neutral area. And since nothing is neutral here, the neutral area here would be any part that doesn't have a button. So nothing in particular, but this would be neutral. So click there and then that box disappears. Okay. So you click on something that you want, it pops open. And then when you're done with it, you click on a neutral space and I call it click away and it goes away. So now the other way, so once again, that text again is giving color to everything. So the only time you want to select your text is when you actually want to isolate one portion of your text to be changed. When the change has to happen to the entire text, then you want to have it just the whole frame selected, because then you can see what's happening. Here's why. Let's go to the select and let's change only one of our words. So I'm going to go and select my type tool, because to be able to change only one word, I have to select using my type tool. Then I'm going to select this word, the word something, and I'm going to do a little double click on it so that it selects the entire word, or you can click and drag, but you know, a little double click in the middle of one word selects one word. If you want the whole paragraph, triple click. So that gives you the whole thing. Okay, so we're changing only one word. And here's the thing. Every time you select, your selection ends up being inverted. So now the background is dark and the text is light. So imagine if we now try to give it a color. I want to give it this pink color, but it looks green. Or I want to give it a blue color, but it looks orange. It's very hard to choose what you want when it's selected. See what I mean? It just doesn't really work well. Selection is something that really inverts the colors so much that I would have to know that I want that green for me to be able to put that green on, because really what I'm seeing is pink. I would have to now click away and click away back to the type tool to finally see the green. I have to get rid of that selection. Does that make sense? So selecting text, you're going to do only when you really need to subselect one particular piece of your text, because it's just a really uncomfortable way to work because you can't see what you're changing. Now, it's a little bit easier if what you're changing isn't color, but it's font, because you can still probably see the font, you know, changing. Maybe you wanted to go with, I'm going to go with something really different. Say, I wanted that text, for example. And I want to make it even bigger. So say that I want it that big. So yeah, but since I know it's supposed to be green, it's still a bit weird to see it that way. When I click away, now I really see that it's big and green. Okay. So in InDesign, 90% of the times our whole headline will be one way, or our whole body text will be another way. Rarely do we have one frame that has two types of sizes and shapes. You'll have this one will have one color, size, and shape, and then you'll have another box that has the next line and it'll be a little bit different. Does that make sense? That way you can change by frame. So I'm going to go ahead and undo these last two changes by doing Control or Command. For those of you who didn't have a mistake yet, hopefully you've done something like this, then Control or Command Z a few times until you get back to having it all black, and that way you get to practice your Control or Command Z, which is truly important to understand. Okay, before I move forward, any questions that are popping in your own head, things that you want to know? That I might have not dealt with? Nope. Great. Thanks, Joyce. Anyone else? All right. Just checking in. So now I'm going to go Control or Command minus to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole document. Now I'm holding my space bar to zoom it into the middle. Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm kind of just doing that back and forth. And I'm going to again click my selection tool and get that box going. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you just one more quick set of things that you can do. If you expanded your character choices to see more choices, there's one other one that people kind of quickly always want to know. And that's these choices down there, which are, I can turn everything into all caps or into what's called small caps, where it's all caps, but the first letter is bigger than the rest. Okay. Or, and that's usually the only two that matter. People go, oh, I don't know in InDesign how to find small caps, because you're accustomed to finding it in other programs, and it's kind of hiding under these little 3 dots. You need to expand a bit more. There's many other choices here that bear talking about, but right now those are the only ones that are most important. I'm going to click on it again and click on it again to go back to not having that. And then the last one that's really important is the tracking, which is, and I'm going to, over here, we had the font size, then we had the leading, which made things, you know, more or farther away or closer up. And right underneath that, we have tracking. And tracking is a big deal because tracking is expanding the space inside of our words. So I'm gonna, right here, it has a 0. And notice that the numbers are big, they just jump. So you can do more or less tracking. So I'm going to make much less space, and I'm going to go jump straight to the 100. So it's a very obvious change. Boom. And I've compressed my text so much, right, that it got kind of like squinched. And now I'm going to track in and do the other way. I'm going to expand it so much that let's write something has so much space in between it that I have to make this thing bigger. It so happens that that the reason it's bigger is because I took the space, not because the font is bigger. I added a ton of space. So then you can just adjust it with more or less with a little arrow, so you can do it visually. So this is not making the font bigger. It's taking up more or less space between each letter. Okay. And when you hit that middle point, the 0, that's the space that the font came with. The font that was designed with this space, and you can add more or less to it with that tool. Sometimes you want to have that. Okay, so those are the most important tools in the characters. There's a ton more, but let's bring in some, for now, let's leave the text be, and let's bring in some pre-formatted text. So for the most part, we tend to write headlines and things like that. But when we have a lot of text, it's something that usually has been written in any of these documents. You don't write a book by opening it in InDesign and starting to write it. You probably wrote it in somewhere else, and then you lay out the book in InDesign. You know what I mean? So this here is a text box. And remember, we know it's a text box mainly because at this point, we saw that the text box appeared over there. So now I don't want to write it. I just have the text already done. And one thing you should never do is copy paste text in. That's usually never a good idea. You don't want to copy and paste in, because then you have a whole issue of formatting. If the person knew what they were doing and formatted the document correctly in Word, which is this little text that we're going to place in here, is already formatted in Word by someone who knows how to format in Word, which is not very often, it's going to come in ready to go with formatting. 99.90% of the times, you're going to get a document that someone formatted badly. And when you put it in InDesign, it's a disaster. So you're going to have to go to Word, get rid of all the formatting, bring it into InDesign, and reformat it correctly in here. So when someone asks you, should I format the stuff? 90% of the times you want to say, no, it's okay. I'll do it. Don't worry. Because usually whatever they're going to do is not the correct formatting you need. But this text is correctly formatted. So let's first select the text frame that's going to bring in, that we're going to bring in. So it's this little first panel. And we're going to go File, Place. File, Place. So then a Finder window opens. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to show. A Finder or an Explorer window opens up if you're on a PC or on a Mac. And we need to go find our text. Now, our text, for those on VDI, is under the Google Drive again. For those of you who are at home on your own systems, it's wherever you put the class files. So for VDI people, go to Google Drive, shared drives, double click on shared drives, digital design techniques, double click, class files. And the first folder was brochure, Hansel and Petal. Okay, so now wherever you put that in your computers, those of you who have them, go find them in your computers. And what we want to get to is to this docx, which is a Word file, which is O1 intro docx.
Can you go over that again, Diana?
Mhm. So the process is always going to be the same. It's always going to be in the Google Drive, which you'll find here on the left. And after that, it's in the shared drives. Double click shared drives.
No,
By the
but you
way,
said
how
from
to get here,
file-
how to get here.
Yeah, from
Okay, so file place, file place.
Place.
And we're going to place photos, place logos, place text. We're never going to open, copy, paste. We're going to always
Okay,
place our
place.
stuff. Okay.
And then
File
we go
place.
to desktop.
Nope, never on the desktop. You're on VDI, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to go here to Google Drive.
Oh, Google Drive. Okay.
Okay.
And
Then
shared drive.
drives, digital
digital
design
design.
techniques, class
And then
files.
class files.
And then we're
brochure.
working inside of this brochure. Mhm.
Okay.
And now we've gotten to the place where we are ready to go. And notice
Okay.
that we're also going to have a logo, which is an Adobe Illustrator file. We're going to have a JPEG, and we're going to have a Photoshop file. So these are all things that we can place. People are surprised. You won't be able to probably, Johnny. You can't place a PSD though. But I don't think CSS allowed you to place a PSD. I don't know, maybe, we'll see. I don't remember. But the rest of us can place all these files. Okay, so now you can either select and hit open down there, or you can just double click here, whichever way. Now, wait for a minute because we're getting the good old font information window. So don't just skip or change, just watch for a minute because I want to show you something. Remember I told you you'll see another place where the font goes pink. So most of it is coming in the way it's supposed to come in. And this is only me because remember that I had already put in the fonts. But for many of you guys, if you didn't replace any of the fonts, you might have a lot more pink. I don't know. How many of you are having a lot more pink than me? Yeah. That pink background is what I meant by that's showing you that the font is not available. It's not that someone decided to paint the pink background. Okay. So that's why I had ended up replacing some of the fonts, and that's why the text is just coming how it should be on most of it, except for this one. And so it's telling me you're missing this font. If you have more of it missing, it's because there's more fonts that you need to replace. I'm just going to not replace it this time. I'm going to just say skip. Everyone just say skip. Now this is text that was, you'll rarely find it this way unless it's prepared for you as a class file. So I'm kind of warning you, but this is text that was already set up correctly in Word, where this was already set up as a headline with rules, not just by formatting in documents, by selecting and changing it to a different font, but actually with rules and presets and stuff with styles. And with styles, which not many people know in Word how to design with styles, but if you set it that way up, then notice that this already came in. Our vision in mission with a certain size, with a little line, some space here, text that came in with a certain spacing, it's kind of ready to go. This is the ideal world. We're gonna for now ignore. Notice now, by the way, that now I have a second error. So now here it says 2 errors. Some of you guys are up to 3, 4, 5, 6 errors, depending on how many fonts or not you replaced, right, you guys? But yeah, I'm seeing a couple of nods, and I know that anyone else who's down there doing that is having different numbers depending on how many fonts. So I'm going to bring in a piece, some text first. Sorry, an image first, because we're almost at 8:15. I want to leave us with an image and some text and all of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on showing you how to replace your fonts and look at the missing links and stuff like that during the next hour. So if someone, those of you who can stay, yay, you'll get to practice here and ask me questions. Those of you who can't, please, 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 please watch the last hour of the recording during the next 4 days until you get to next Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, if I wasn't there to, ask when it whether it doesn't work, then we're going to go, you can go ahead and ask me, well, I tried to do it, but I couldn't do it. But basically you're going to have to learn that next hour from watching the video. You promise? Otherwise next week, I don't want to have to reteach the last hour. The whole point of this hour is to make up the hour that was missing. All right. So I got to get your commitment for that. All right. So let's head over here and remember that this was a font. This was a box that when we clicked on it, it didn't come up with text, which is one quick way to notice that it's set up to be an image frame. I just want to slight disclaimer that if had I wanted to place in some text in here, it would have come in and it would convert itself to a text frame. Or had I grabbed a text frame and when I ended up placing a picture, the picture would have come in and it would just transform itself. In the past, it didn't. So once again, Johnny, who was looking at an older version, it might not let you, I don't know. But now, even though the frames are set up for a certain material, if you bring in the wrong thing and design goes, oh, well, and it just kind of shifts the frame type. All right. But still just trying to kind of explain what the setup is. And this says set up to bring in an image. So we're going to go do that. So select this box, back to place, file, place. And we're going to go bring in the Making Bouquet JPEG. Making Bouquet JPEG. Now, you might notice that I didn't go first into Bridge to learn about this photo, to find out more about this photo before I'm bringing it in. Ideally, because I already know what I'm bringing in, but if not, notice that if I hover over it, I'm getting a little bit of that metadata here. It's telling me it's a JPEG. It's telling me, forget the tags that it might have or not if someone tagged it correctly. But if you go to the kind of bottom three choices, it's telling me the dimensions. What's 1800 by 2700? What does that mean? 18700
Pixels.
what?
Pixel size.
What's that?
Pixels.
Pixels. Okay.
Pixels.
It's already telling me how many pixels it is. And the size is the file size. Is it telling me anything about resolution here?
No.
No. So it's telling me a little bit of information, but it's not enough. I don't know if it's set at 72 PPI or if it's set at 400 PPI or at 300 PPI. I don't know much, but I know a little bit at least. Okay. So it's better than nothing. All right. So let's bring this one in. So again, let's hit open. And voila, a photo appeared. Now, what I have no idea is if this is all my photo, if the photo was already resized to this shape and size, if this is the part of the photo I want to see, is there more to this photo or not? I don't know right now, right? So I'm going to teach you how to know and how to find out. But let's just say that the frame that you moved with this arrow, the white arrow, the black arrow key or selection tool, holds my photo. But the way it pops in is just centered. So I don't know, is there more photo? Do I see a person? Do I see the hands? Do I see the rest of the photo? Probably so. But when it pops in like this, it pops in at full size, whatever size the photo is at, and centered. So right now it's a mystery. So how do I know? Well, let's hover over the middle of this frame, and you see this little circle that appears over there, that kind of circle that appears only when I hover over it. And when I put my hand over it, suddenly, then my mouse over it, suddenly it turns into a hand. You see that? So I'm going to put my mouse over it with my hand. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag around, and I discover, ooh, there was more to that photo. Oh, look at that. There's not more up there. Okay, you have to click in this middle only. And oh, there's not much more down there. So I can't go much further up and down. But if I go to the left, oh, look at that. I can see the hand. Oh, I can see the hand cutting the flowers. Okay, that's cool. Let me keep going over. Oh, I'm out of photo. Do you see what I mean? How you can kind of see? Now, notice that when I click and hold for a little bit, I get this moment, and I'm trying to just not click and hold, just do a single click. I'm going to move over to the left. So just single click in this little center. And now when I move my mouse, it'll disappear a bit, but do you see how there's a red box out here? You see that red box that I'm outlining with my mouse?
Yeah.
That's the size of that photo that's inside the frame. So if you pay attention to that red line, let's look at the top. You'll see that I can only see a little bit more. I'm going to drag it down. And then now that's the end of the photo. That's why I'm seeing white over there. Inside of my frame is letting me see portions of the photo so I can keep going. I have more photo all the way there. And I move to the left and I have more photo over there, but I will go too far. I don't see photo anymore. So imagine that the frame that I put this photo in is like a hole in the wall, and you're just moving something behind it and you're seeing portions of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The frame is the hole, and then whatever you move behind it is what you get to see. So it's really a mask. It's masking out. I only want to see this much photo, and you're moving the photo around. Some of you guys have had a photo that's too big for your frame and you've had to cut a piece off so that it fits and you choose which side to cut off. That's kind of what's happening here. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So this frame has two parts. There's the frame is the holder, and the actual content of the frame is what you access with this little content grabber. That little circle there is called the content grabber. Okay. Now, I don't want to confuse you now, so I'm just going to say that for hundreds of years, I have not used the content grabber. I've always used the white selection tool. So for me, I just switched to the white selection tool, and then I move this guy around, and then the black selection tool, and I use the grabber. So people want to know what the white selection tool is equivalent to that content grabber. It grabs the content. But for now, as beginners, it's easier to just use the content grabber to move the photo itself, and the black selection tool. You need to get rid of that, right? So you need to click away, neutralize that. Then you grab again, and this time you're grabbing anywhere except for that center. So now click away. If you were still holding the center, click somewhere outside of. Now move back in, and now what you've got is not the content grabber, but the black selection tool. Now you can click and drag and see how you can move that box around, and you move it with photo and all. But the photo is only showing the portion that it's showing. So this is the frame moving with the content. Does that make sense? You want to move the frame, you avoid that center like crazy. You just move the photo in whatever its shape it has. If you decide that you wanted to see more of that scissors, then you go to the center of it and you push over because you want to see the scissors cutting the frame. And then you move out here again into the place that's not the content grabber to move the frame around, to move the frame versus the content. Okay, frame and content. Okay, so now I'm going to go and snap it back into the right place. And what I mean by snap it back, I truly mean snap it back, because when I try to move the box into place, notice that my frame forcefully kind of snaps when it gets to edges. It goes boom, and it snaps to that edge. If I try to move it over, I can, of course, it's not hard, but boom, it snaps. It tries to align itself to the right spot. And then I make it go boom, and I try to line it over there, and notice that the right spot is going to end up being a little bit over this whole box. That's the correct. And I know I've gone 5 minutes beyond what the original final part of the class is. I just wanted to show you that, guys, that little bit. Let's save this file, and then people who need to leave can leave, and people who are going to stay with us will keep going for a little bit longer. So bring that photo, that whole frame back, and snap it into this spot, showing whatever part you want to show of this photo, which right now I'm going to show more of the scissors instead of the flowers, just as a choice. Now let's save this file. Those of you at home, you can just save and save it wherever you want to save it. For people who are in VDI, you can't just save, because your version of the file that you're using is the communal version, the shared drive. You're going to have to do a save as to put it in a place where it's just your own file. Okay, so let's do file, save as. And for anyone at home, if you do a save as, then you can keep the original version untouched, and you can keep your version that you're working on. That way you can keep going back to the first one if you think you messed up the first one. So probably good for everyone to do a save as. And so then in the name, you can call it Brochure Hands and Old Petal. And then I'm going to, right before the .indd, I'm going to click after the letter petal, and I'm going to do a little underscore and call it Diana, for example. So it's my version of it. Okay. So you can't save until we change drive. So don't try to save yet, because you're all going to go, it didn't let me, it didn't let me. No, it won't let you if you save right now. The only people who can save right now are people who are at home with their own versions of computer. You can go hit save and you're fine. But for those of us on VDI, you have to change where it goes. So you need to click again on Google Drive. Okay, so click on Google Drive over here. And now what you're going to go, instead of shared drives are mine, and I've shared them with you, and they're locked. You can't access them. You need to go to My Drive. So double click on My Drive. This is VDI people, double click on My Drive. And in My Drive, you probably have, I have a lot of stuff, but you might have nothing. You might have a lot. It doesn't matter what you have in My Drive. My Drive is your Google Drive, your pipeline accounts Google Drive. So we're going to make a new folder. So this is VDI people. Google Drive, double click My Drive, and then hit over here the word new folder. And it'll come up and write digital design techniques. I'm going to call it summer 1 because I have a folder here for what I just finished in spring. If you can say class files or class work or whatever you want to call that folder. And then you say open. And then that's where we're going to save. So we're going to make sure that up here it says digital design techniques summer 1. So you've opened that folder, and here we're going to save our brochure with your name. Okay, I'm going to say save. Right. So now if you look up at the top, this one is now not the one that you took from the shared drive. This is yours. It should have your name under here, brochure, Hansel and Petal Diana. See up at the top. Or in your case, it'll say Mary or Jean or Nina or whatever you say. So now you're safe. If you are going to leave, now you can just go ahead and close up and leave. Or if you're on VDI, you have to close your session. And when you watch the video, open the session again. Remember, you might need to refresh your Google Drive. For those of you who are not going to leave, we're going to continue. I'm going to make another copy so that I remember where I left all of you guys. This is just for me. And I'm going to call this one extra hour, just so that I know where I dropped you all off at the end of today's class. All right. So for those of you who are going to sign out, I'll see you next Tuesday with this last video under your belt. And for those of you who are going to stay, we're going to continue at this point for another 45 minutes. Yeah, about 45 more minutes. Okay. All right. So, and then if you need to drop out at any time in between here and the 45 minutes, I understand, maybe you're gonna say another 10 minutes, go ahead and just, when you're done, and then you watch the last little bit. All right. I was wondering whether to stop the recording and then start a new one so people only see the next piece. No, that's too, that'll confuse things. Okay, here we go. We continue. All right. So, so now what we're gonna do, that's what happens when you bring in your own image. What we're gonna do right now is we're going to practice without, if we don't have a box to bring an image in or text in, what happens. So I'm going to do that a little bit with another file. But the first thing I said I was going to do here, that I warned you all that I would do in the extra hour, was explain to you how to get the links that are missing, or the links that are incorrect, so to say, how to bring them in. Now, you might have noticed or not, this whole time we've had a little icon here that has a question mark. Had you guys noticed that before? There's a little thing above here where it says hand signal pedal. That little round thing, if I zoom into it, and I'm going to click and drag over, it's hard to say, but that's a little question mark. That was my first error. The error that I had, 2 errors. The fact that there's a question mark here is because it's a missing link. It's that first message we got that we said there's a link that's missing, something that we can't find. That's what it is. And that question mark is telling me that there's a missing link. The second error, that I have only 2, but you guys might have 2 or 3 or 4, is the missing fonts. So let me first show you a little bit more about this error panel. I might not have seen that question mark. I might not know where my errors are. I might have not been aware that there's a font missing or something because I thought I had fixed it. So sometimes you don't know where your errors are. Well, InDesign lets you know. So let's go to this panel. Let's click on this little arrow next to the errors. And over here, there's a couple of different things. And the one that we want to, a pre-flight, let me explain the word pre-flight. Have you ever been on an airplane? If so, you know how you sit there and in the terminal and you wait and you wait and you wait and they're not letting you in, and you're wondering what they're doing. They're taking so long. Well, pilots and people down there in the airplane and all around the airport are doing a pre-flight check to make sure everything is ready to go, right? So you've heard, you know, they go, you know, you see in the movies, oh, let's check this, check the engine before they go, okay, we're ready to fly, board the people, off we go. And before you do that, even then they tell you about putting on your seatbelts and they check all the things and they bring up all the seats. That's the pre-flight check, making the plane ready to go. So InDesign does a pre-flight check on your document to see if it's ready to go to print. And that's what this little thing is doing. The check is on automatically. That means that you are running a constant pre-flight check. And that's why it's pointing out that you have at this point 1, 2, or 3, or 25 errors, depending on how many errors. It's because the document is constantly telling you it's running a constant pre-flight. I don't know in CS6 if it was constantly on, or did you need to turn it on? I don't remember anymore in CS6. I keep talking about CS6. Johnny is following the class with his version of these programs from a version called CS6, which is the last version right before the Creative Cloud. So that stopped being updated in 2012, which by now is like 9 years ago. And so there's a lot of differences, but surprisingly enough, huge amounts of similarities. Like there's a lot of changes with anything that has to do with things that go to the web. Everything that goes to the web, it's like eons more advanced, much more advanced. But a lot of the stuff that goes to print hasn't changed that much. And the pre-flight panel and stuff has been there since forever. So, but now and then I'll check in with him because it's been so many years at CS6 that I kind of need a reminder of whether it was already in CS6 or not. I know the pre-flight was, but I don't know if the panel was on or not all the time. Anyway, so now we wanted to tell us, okay, great, thank you. There's some errors. Where are they? So let's go click on pre-flight panel. So the pre-flight panel turns on and it's showing me where my errors are, and it's telling me there's one error here in the link and one error in the text. The link error is the one they warned me at first that I said, sure, we'll fix later. We could have fixed it on the opening, but I wanted to get to this place, so I wanted to leave an error. And there's an error in the text. So let's first look at the error in the link. So I'm going to open this little guy. I'm going to click on it, and it tells me that there's only one missing link. Had I had more, there might be more windows. So I open again, and it's telling me this thing here is missing. The HP ALTB stacked RGB CLR AI. This is missing. Now, let me say, I know where that mistake is and where it is, but what if I had been somewhere completely different? What if I had been way over here? I have no idea, no notion of where that mistake is, right? So the computer is telling me where it is, right? It says if I hover over it, click to view details in the info section, or double click to select the error in the document. See how when I hover over it, that little tip is telling me? If I simply click, first of all, it's telling me it's in page 1, but there's only one page to this document. But if I hover over it, it says double click to select the error. So I'm going to double click, and it jumped. And if I look at what's selected, this box is now selected. Does that make sense? So it even points me exactly to where the mistake is. So if I didn't know where it was, if I hadn't noticed that question mark, then the pre-flight panel is taking me straight to my error. And
Diana,
it's telling, yeah,
I'm sorry, how do you open the pre-flight panel?
no problem. So I went here to where it says to errors, and this little bottom
I'm
pointing
not
arrow,
seeing-
you
I'm not
click on that,
seeing-
and then you click on,
Oh, at the bottom.
yeah, way
Oh, I
down here.
see. Yeah, we cannot see
There-
the, I mean, at least I cannot see the bottom of your screen. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because you have zoom tools and stuff in the way. So put your mouse in the bottom where there's big red error.
Yeah.
And
Pre-flight panel,
then there's
now
a
I found
little
it.
arrow on the right of it. Thanks for asking. I'm not aware of what you don't see, so thank you. Because it depends on how you have set up your stuff. And then click on the pre-flight panel option there, and this is where you see it.
Found it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now if I didn't know where this was, I double clicked and it took me straight there. Okay. Now, there's another page that we work with links on, and let me, I like the links panel open all the time. The links panel is not open automatically. So how do you open a panel that's missing? Well, if these are panels over here. And if you don't see the panel that you want, there's nothing here showing me links. I'm going to go over here to window, and I'm going to open the links panel right there. I'm going to go to window and open the links panel. So window, links. And as soon as I do that, this little panel opens up that I absolutely love. I kind of can't live without my links panel. I work on documents with tons of links, and this helps me keep track of it all the time. So once it's popped open like it is right now, I can use it and then get rid of it, or not get rid of it, but pop it down again by, see this little double-headed arrow? I can just make it disappear, but now it appeared. Now it's sitting there where before it wasn't. Now I can pop it out again when I want, pop it out when I want. So this is the links panel, and this is the one that I want. And by the way, it's showing me both of my links. It's showing
Can you
my
redo
making
that?
bouquet that
Sorry
I just
about
brought
that.
in. Remember we brought that one in, but it's not showing me an error on that one. It's showing me an error on this one. Okay. So now there's so many ways to fix this link. I could have clicked on this little question mark here, right there, and I could have just made it open and made me find it. So that is what I could have done from the very beginning, which is the easiest way to fix it. I could also have, when I opened the panel right now, in the links panel, fix it. Or I believe over here it gave me a choice to fix it. No, it didn't give me a choice to fix it over there. some other place had given me a choice to fix it at some point. I don't remember. where
How
it
did
was
you
now.
get to the
I
links
always fix
file?
it from here, from the links panel. So I'm going to hover over this little question mark and it's telling me what's wrong. It's missing. So let me explain what it means by missing.
How'd you
Remember
get
I
into
told
the
you that
links file?
This
Sorry.
flower bouquet with the cutting scissors that we brought in, we linked it. We didn't insert it into the document. And how do I know? Look at the very top of this flower bouquet. See how that has a little chain link icon? Do you see? I'm gonna put the little tip on my spotlight on the tip of my mouse again. See over here at the top, how there's a little tiny chain link icon? You see that, guys?
Mhm.
That is showing me that this is linked versus embedded. I'm not going to embed something so you don't right now, so you won't see the opposite, but that's a link. And this link is telling me that this file has been linked. What it means is that now, from now on, my InDesign and my brochure, my Making Bouquet file need to stay connected. InDesign needs to know where that file is and file. So if for any reason that file gets moved, right now InDesign knows, look what it knows. I'm going to hover over this guy and it knows that Making Bouquet is in the G drive, shared drive, Zildjian Techniques shared drive, class files, Zildjian Techniques, brochure, Hansel and Peter Making Bouquet. See the whole thing it's reading off there? That's where InDesign knows that file is. That's the path to that file. Now, look what happens. So just watch, don't do anything. Look what happens. Now I'm in Bridge. Don't do this, just watch. I'm going to go ahead and all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name. I'm going to just say, call it changed, right? Just so you guys can see that all I did is change the file name. When I go back to InDesign, look what happened. Make Bouquet is now not found. Look up here. This has turned into a question mark as well, because the photo was never in InDesign. It was just linked to that one. And then suddenly my document is going, whoops, where did it go? Making Bouquet is not there anymore. It's looking for Making Bouquet. And now that file is now makingbouquet.changed. And so InDesign's like, I don't know where it is. You got to find it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what's happening to the top one. The change is a little bit different. This one got moved from one folder to another, so it can't find it. So for whatever reason that it can't find it, it needs to be changed. So now I'm going to undo this change just because I don't want to keep it wrong. And I'm going to just go give it back its original name. So now this Making Bouquet is exactly what InDesign is looking for. I go back to InDesign and now I have a new thing here. I have a thing called whoops, exclamation point, exclamation point. And this is a fine. I know where the file is, but warning, there's been a modification. You should probably update it to make sure that nothing very different is happening. So see over here, I also have a little triangle warning sign. So I messed with the file a little bit and InDesign's like, not sure if it's still the right one. Why don't you check it? So those are all the warning signs you get. You get the nothing, everything is fine. You get the modification or whoops, can't find it. Okay, so this is so easy. InDesign is making it easy for us to know that something's wrong. So let me first fix this modified, double click to update. I double click and InDesign goes, checks it and updates it. That's how easy it was. So the modified panel that you might not have had was a simple one. This one, on the other hand, InDesign doesn't know where the file is, so it needs us to find it. So let's go ahead and double click the question mark. And when we double click the question mark, a window opens and goes, go ahead and find it for me, please. So this window opens up and where it's pointing to is to where I last saved the file. And definitely this is not where I have the link that it's looking for. Now, those of you who are at home might have the file right there, but those of us on VDI, we left that file way back in the Google Drive shared drive. Okay, and right now, remember, we're in the My Drive because we saved the file. So we, on VDI, have to go click again, Google Drive, go back to shared drives, double click, go back to digital design techniques, class files, double click, brochure, Hansel and Petal. And here we are. All I can find is HP logos. This thing is looking for HP logo, alt linked key, all that kind of stuff. And that's, oh, actually, you know what? This might not be the one. I might have it in a different folder, but let's assume that this is the one. So say, I think this is the one it needs, which actually it's a different name, but this is the only one that you guys have in your class files. So this is the one I tell. And so InDesign doesn't know that it's the wrong one. All it knows is it trusts that I'm telling it it's this one. So we're gonna make it be that this is the right one. So I select it and I click open, or I just double click. So InDesign goes, phew, I found it. And it brings in this one, which obviously was not the same one, but InDesign doesn't know. All it does is it gives me the one that I told it was that one. Does that make sense? So now we have this one here, and I can move it down a little bit, and with the touching the movement thing, or I can bring the whole frame down, touching this thing, and then I have to I forgot that if I move the frame down, so I need to move it in. So I'm going to just put it down here for a little bit. I'm going to bring in the file for next class. I'm going to have the right file that should have gone in here. But right now, InDesign is happy. I fixed the 2 links that we're missing. Now, it's kind of happy. Notice that here I only have 1 error. And over here, the error for missing link disappeared. But it still is showing me a text error. And for some of you, 2 or 3 or 4 text errors. Yeah. So let's go and see how we deal with that. Let's open the text, find the missing font, and I only have 1 that's missing at this point. I'll go ahead and keep opening. So when I say open, these little triangular thingies there, these clicks, if you click on them, they open. So I'm not clicking on the word text. That doesn't do anything. I have to click on that little triangle, which is expand or collapse. So once I expand, it tells me there's 1 missing font. Okay, sure, what font? So I click on that link again. Oh, Montserrat is missing. Well, where is it? And I click again. Oh, there it is. And in my case, it's only missing from the and mission. And that's, could be that I still don't know where that is. I'm like, oh, I don't know where that is. So I'll just double click. And it took me right there. It's highlighted where the mistake is. Okay. So those of you who have 2 or 3 different choices to change, we need to update that. So basically it's telling me this font is missing. You got to do something about it. Okay. So all I can do about it is choose a new font that I do have. But by clicking on this, it selected it for me. Now say that it didn't select it, then this is the time to go put on the type tool and select it myself, because you know it's also been painted pink all this time. Now by double clicking here, it selects it for me. I don't need to do anything. Here's the important thing. Notice that when I double click here, it selects all of this plus a little bit of space. Be careful, because if with the type tool, all you selected was the text like and mission, and you left that space, you're still going to have an error once you fix that, because that space is also formatted with the missing font. It's a bit too technical here, but I just want you to know that when I did this double click here, it selected that space, versus had you decided to fix it without this panel, you would say, oh, I need to fix this text. So you select this text and you change it. So I'm going to change it to something, whatever right now. So I'm changing it to that, you know, I don't know. I'll change it to about that, which is horrible. But notice that it still says I have 1 error. And I go, no, but I changed the text. And it's because that little space was not changed. So I'm going to Command Z and Control Z because I don't like that. And I'm going to select the whole thing again. But just so you know, if you select everything yourself, you need to select that space. If not, using this, space got selected. Now the only way to fix that is just give it a font that we can find, which will be the fonts that we have down here. So now I'm going to choose a font that is going to be a little bit easier to read. let's see, what should I find? And we're gonna talk later about correct, what kind of fonts, but one thing you always want to do is to not have too many fonts. Okay, so right now we have many fonts in this document because we're just learning how to use the program more than learning about fonts themselves. But anyway, choose a font that works. I'm gonna choose, I don't know, Museo Sans. There we go. I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna choose that one. And now the error page is happy. It says no errors, because I gave it a font that I have the rights to, that I have in my computer that is working. Okay, so if I have no errors, I don't need to have the panel open anymore. I can close it from this little X and say, okay, got it, thank you. And over here, it's still selected. So I click away and it's gone. And you could have chosen whatever you chose, as long as it's a font that the computer has. Now the pink is gone. So for those of you who had 2 or 3 of those things going, go ahead and choose the other text and choose a font and change it. Now we have, keep an eye on that little error thing, so that if now and then suddenly we look down and we have an error, we know something's wrong, we need to check and fix it. So we fix it by either updating the links or finding the fonts. Those are the 2 main errors that you're going to find. Okay. Any questions? All right. I'm going to make us save this file. So once it's already your file, like it's already the one that you have, you don't need to save as again. You can just save. So people who like shortcuts, Control or Command S. People who don't like shortcuts, go to File and Save. Now this one doesn't need the whole, we're already working on the one that's not on the server. Okay. All right. I told you I was going to give you an extra 5-minute break, but then we kind of zoomed through. So if anyone wants to stand up and jump around the chair 2 or 3 times, stretch your legs, pop out a plank or 2, then you're welcome to do that. Stretch. Oh, I've actually been standing all day long, and that's the first time I sit. So I'm gonna stay sitting. That's good. It's funny, and there's, depending on how the session gets scheduled, I tend to teach sometimes classes that are a bunch of our, oh, which reminds me, oh, when did we start? I can't do more than 4-hour recording. We start 1:30 to 2:30 to 3:30 to 4:30 to 5:30. No, this class started at 5:30. We'll be fine. We'll be right under the 4 hours. If the recording is more than 4 hours long, then YouTube doesn't caption it. And if YouTube doesn't caption it, I can't put it up on YouTube for the class, because without captions, it's not considered an accessible document, that I can't produce non-accessible documents for accessibility purposes. People should be able to read the captions. So I just need to be aware that I can't go past that time, or the document becomes inaccessible. Okay. All right. Are you all back?
Back.
All right. Where's my mouse? Ah. Hello, mouse. Where are you? My mouse is not. Hello. Wow. I told you I have 3 monitors in front of me. So I was like lost in the deep recesses of the other monitor. Here's my mouse. Okay. All right. So now, does everyone have error-free documents? Have you all cleaned up all your errors? Jenny, Joyce, Nina, Isabella, the people I don't see, Mary, Faye, give me a
I'm still
thumbs
working
up.
on mine. I had 4, but I'll get
Oh, I
along
took
with
off
it.
my-
I'll figure it out.
You know what? But instead of saying, don't worry, I'll figure it out, this is a perfect chance to share your screen, give me a chance to give you a hand and help you do it, unless you really don't want to. But a lot of the times
You can
I'm
help
on
I
me.
two-
find,
I'm on two different devices, so I can't really share my screen. I'm just trying to
Well-
figure the fonts out. It's so stupid. I don't think it's a very hard thing to do, but it's somehow challenging me.
No, it is, which is why I'm offering you to share. And if you're working on two devices, you are not, you're not in the Zoom on two devices. So I see what you mean. You
Yeah,
are on Zoom in only one device. So, yeah. So yeah, you can't share your screen, which, by the way, you guys, whenever you're in trouble and there's someone who connects to my class, my Photoshop class, who's in that situation where two computers take up too much of her Zoom energy. So but she knows how to connect and share her screen. So whenever she runs into trouble, she knows how to say share her screen. So then she connects to Zoom on her other computer and shares her screen. And then when she's done, she disconnects. That way her connection isn't so bad, but she's gotten good at it. She does it quickly. But so if that's a need you have because of your Zoom connection, then do it that way. But if not, then just stay connected on both if your Zoom, if your internet is fast, because then it's easy to help you. Otherwise you end up in these like holes of, it should be easy, but I could be showing you right now and then you'd learn it. But since I can't show you, you're going to have to learn it from the recording. Because I can't guess at what's wrong. So it's up to you. If you want to connect, let me know. If you don't want to connect, then I will move on.
I'll take
Which
your
is-
offer to share this, my
Okay.
screen. I
All right, let me,
haven't
I
formatted-
have to stop my share first. Okay. So have you shared your screen yet? At any point?
Yeah,
I don't
so,
think so. Yes, you have. Okay. So
So-
there you're sharing.
so I'll take care of the font and all that. I need to help going through this section here where you had that.
Okay. Great. So go ahead and double click on the question mark. Yep. And so it tries to go find it. So go click Google Drive, shared drive, sorry, yes. Double click on shared drives, digital design techniques, class files, and the top brochure, the first one. And I chose the HP logos. Mhm. Oh, stop. Thank you for showing me this. Hold on. I'm always sharing my screen and I'm not aware until you show me this, that see how you guys are not seeing the extensions? By that, I mean, hers just says HP logos, period, making bouquet, period. And in mine, I was showing you HP logos.ai, making bouquet.
I think my window just
JPEG.
went open.
No, it's not that. It's just that it's a choice you need to make to see the extensions. And I hate the choice of not seeing extensions because to me, you need to know what kind of file you have. Now, if you expand it as big as she did, you can read way over here that it tells you what kind of file it is, but there's something you choose to see the extensions, and then I have it turned on mine and I'm trying to figure out,
This,
yeah, go over there. Yeah, click on that and let me see. Nope, that's not it. Where was it that you changed it on this window? There's a place where you change it, or maybe you just need to change it, not when you're importing, probably. Yeah, it's probably not when you're importing. So let me go.
If you type
Give
in
me
the
a second
search,
here.
if you type in the search extension, you should be able to find a thing that pops up. It's for your computer. It's not for that. Like if you just search it, you'll be able to find it.
And then you tell it to always show extensions.
Yeah, it's basically a
let me
checkbox
see.
that you check.
something.
Show
you just
file.
if you just type it
show
in,
file
no,
extensions.
Did type it in
the-
there.
I'm doing it, but I'm doing,
it's the search bar at the bottom next to the start. It's that search
yeah,
bar.
but you know what? I'm testing it right now with VDI and it went crazy. I'm testing it on myself and it's not letting, let me see if it lets me change it.
Well, I never changed it
Yeah.
on VDI, but I have it on my laptop, and I think that affects VDI or something because I had never changed it on VDI.
Show file extensions. There we go.
Yeah. Where did you find it? Up there. And let me see if it lets you because I just did it. Go ahead and say no to that. Click on the X. just turn the X off. Yeah. And then now, there you go. So you changed it. So see there. Oh,
No, it,
I thought you, I
you
thought you,
might
I
have
thought you
to-
had
I'm on
clicked it.
DDI. I'm not on my own computer.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're in the middle of the open file. So I think you
Right.
you need to finish this, complete this whole thing and then change it. Yeah. So go ahead and say open. And now there it is. Your logo came in. It's not the right logo, by the way, because the right logo isn't available to us right now, but at least it's a different version of this logo. Okay.
Thank you.
So basically, it's
the
the
ship.
wrong thing to do technically, because we basically told it use a different file, not the one you were missing. But InDesign doesn't know any different. It puts in whatever we said it was. So when you want to change one file for another, that's how you would do it. You'd go, well, instead of the bouquet, I want the mountain. So you'll click on that link and you'll go say a missing file and find the mountain, right? Now you have
Right.
another missing thing here, which is the warning. It's not missing, but up there, the bouquet itself is giving you a
Oh, there
little
we go.
triangular warning. Yeah. So double click in there too. And that's it. The double click takes care of it without having go to the link panel.
Oh,
I show you the
okay.
link panel because I want you to understand more what's happening. Otherwise, there's this magic, oh, you double click here and it works. But what's happening? As a teacher, I'm trying to teach you that what's happening is that the link is missing and all of that. Otherwise, it becomes just like, well, if I double click this by some magic, InDesign knows what to do, and that's not really teaching you, right? That's why I'm trying to show you all the options. But really,
Right.
just double clicking it, the computer takes care of it.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna stop the share so you move on. So you can move
Cool.
on.
But you know what, Jean, though? Hold on.
I-
Because Kathy was having an issue with her fonts and she can't share her screen, but you can. So why
Yeah,
don't you actually take care of it here?
That helped me because I went from 4 errors to 2. And now
Great.
because I had the same 2 problems that she had. And now I have different font that needs to be changed. Mine's down by the contact us, but
Mhm.
I'm sure whatever process you do, I can follow along. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing your screen, that
Okay.
would be super helpful.
I appreciate. Thank you for saying that, Kathy, because
Thank you.
and thank you for saying it out loud, because this is what's important. A lot of people have a hard time when I say share their screen because they think, oh, I'm taking away from class time. I want to tell you guys 100% of the times that the issue that you're willing to share is solving 10 other people's problems who weren't willing to speak up. I promise you. So whenever someone really shares, you guys are moving the class forward, because there's also problems that you have that I don't think of to show. And then you just sit there in limbo with a problem that I never mentioned. And once you share, suddenly 3 other people go, oh, thank you. And I go, oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So please be welcome, be open to sharing as a generosity. And everyone who is sitting there watching a share, take it as a learning moment to learn for yourself, not just oh, she's helping a certain person. Rather, I'm explaining things to everyone during everyone's share. Okay, so thank you so much for saying that, Kathy, that you're learning from this, because that's my intention.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have any more text to fix, so I can't show it to you again. So we're showing it now with Jean. Okay. So all you need to do with text is choose a different font, but there's like 3 different fonts happening here,
But what's
which is
this
why you're
here?
seeing 3 errors. Don't touch that for a second right now. That yellow line, for that yellow corner, don't go there. Let me just show you one important thing. There are 3 fonts in this box that are wrong. Now, I would normally use 3 fonts for something, but the designer who did this, and I would in this case maybe use 3 fonts to write these 2 paragraphs back there in Word where they set it up. So that's why she has 3 errors. Can you go to click on this little thing that says 3 errors at the bottom? On the pre-flight panel, let's open up the pre-flight panel. No, way lower down. Now move to the right where you see the big round red button that says
Got
3
it.
errors. Open your pre-flight panel. Yep, there you go. And now click on the little arrow next to the word text, the little arrow on the left. Yep, and now that one. And 3 fonts, okay? So now click one more, click again, you need to click not on the word, but on the little arrow that points in front of the word Fairview, that one, yeah, to expand, yeah. And then click again on the arrow for Montserrat, yeah. And then the last one. Okay, so now
Oh,
you've
I see.
expanded. And
Ah.
it's showing you the 3 different fonts. The first one that's missing is the one for the words our vision, and it's 11 characters. So if you want to be taken to just that little bit, if you didn't know where it was, you can just double click on it. Now, double click. And if you look what happened in your document, the words our vision got selected. You see how they're black now with blue text? That's because the computer selected them from you. So those were originally cast as the font Our Vision, and now it's not working because it can't find it. So now that they were found, all you need to do is go over to your fonts, over to the right. So you're fine there, and go over here where it says character, go down a bit lower and choose a font that you do have. So right now it says between, hold on. See how between like big paragraph, see how it says open hard brackets and it says Fairwater script? Those brackets means I don't have that font. It's been requested, but your computer doesn't have it. That's what those brackets mean. So now click on the arrow and go find a font that you do have. And it doesn't matter if it's the perfect one or not, just choose one that's there. So there we go. So see how that error has been taken care of. There's no more error again. Now choose the next one, double click on that one, not on the one, but yeah, go ahead and double click and see how now it says 475 characters. And look how on her document, all 475 went black and white. They're all selected. So now go find another font for that. And it was Montserrat. Go a bit lower down. Yep. And Montserrat's not going to work anymore. So go choose another one. And if it has,
I see. And
if it has those brackets, you don't have that, but you do have these others, right? So go click on another one. Doesn't matter which. And now that error is missing. And now last one, double click on that. And that's the and mission. And then go back to down there and find something, not that one, because that, if you notice what you're doing there, that one's turning it into like little boxes because it's an icon one. So go keep finding one that the font shows up. Yeah, there you go. Click on that one. And again, I'm not asking her to find a good choice. I'm just trying to get her to find another choice so that the errors are gone, the text has been replaced, and you're done. See how down at the bottom it says no error, so you can close that little panel. Yeah.
And
cool.
thank you,
now-
Jean, because
Oh,
now
you're welcome.
I'm error free. Yay.
All right.
Yay.
So I'll
Okay.
come back.
Now
Is that
say-
okay to come
click-
back to you now?
Click away so that you don't have that and mission selected, because you don't want to keep things selected that you don't want to disappear. There we go. And now save your file and you're done. Cool. Thank you. I'm going to stop your participation while you save your file. You're trying to do a save as. You don't need to do a save as. You had already saved.
Oh, okay.
So say cancel. Just save. Yeah, file save. Oh, you hadn't done a save as. No, yeah, you had. Say
I
file
think-
save again.
I think maybe I lost the Google Drive. I'm gonna stop sharing because
No,
I'm
no,
having,
no, because if you lost your Google Drive, I need to see. Go ahead and say file save. I want to make sure that you save the file. Don't wait. I want to see what's happening.
frozen.
Oh,
It's frozen.
okay. Then
Yeah,
okay. So
it's
then I will stop
frozen.
sharing. If you can't save it, you don't want to lose all your work. Then go ahead and save it temporarily to that VDI desktop. Then
it's not
reconnect to Google
completely
Drive and then save it.
frozen. It's completely
Hmm.
frozen. I lost an internet glitch or something and I can't even maneuver it. But
Yeah,
I could,
that's because you did it. You know why? Because you did a save as and then you stopped it when I was trying to save, and it kind of messed up because I told you, wait, stop. And the system went like, wait, what do you really want to do? And so when you're in VDI, it gets a bit sensitive.
now it's saying an error occurred and send or don't send an error report.
Say don't
Indes-
send, but occurred with what? But with what? With InDesign?
It's- InDesign says an error occurred in InDesign, has encountered a problem and needs to close, and it's gonna
Okay.
close.
So go ahead and close InDesign. Basically,
Send
what's
or
going to
don't
happen?
Send or don't send the report. That's what
Don't
it's
send the report. It doesn't, don't send it at all.
closed itself up. But I learned how
So,
to do it.
yeah, and no, but now, basically, the last time you saved, when we saved this whole document, you'll have it up to then. So you'll just
Okay.
have to replace the fonts. Like you'll have to just replace these fonts, just what we did again, which is only more practice. So that's good. So you can just go back, open up InDesign, and then open it up from the place that you saved it in your My Drive that time, because it did say, Jean, you had saved one that was your own. Open that version again, and it'll be at whatever place you were when you saved it. So you haven't lost everything. You're done. You still have the images and stuff. You just basically lost only the updates of the what we just did today. That's all. What we
Yeah,
just did now that you shared. That's all you lost.
I think the whole connection to the Google Drive closed itself out. That's just
Yeah,
a
you're
little
gonna have to
glitch I
back
have.
out.
Yeah, I see that with, it's happened a few times with the VDI.
Yeah, that's okay. So because we only have 10 more minutes to go, so just keep watching this little bit, and then
Okay. Thank you.
just disconnect, completely clean it up, and then when you connect again, it'll be fine. When VDI goes like that, it just goes. It's awesome that I can teach you. It's awesome that you can use it. This would be impossible to teach if we didn't have VDI, but it isn't. It is a bit glitchy, in particular within design. It's nowhere near as glitchy with Illustrator or with Photoshop. It has a few glitches here and there, but within design, it's very glitchy. So, all right. Okay, so now is everyone error free out there in the world? At least those of you guys and everyone who's watching the recording, hopefully you've managed to find yourselves error free. Cool. So knowing how to fix
Anna?
these problems that are really important. Yep.
Oh, I'm not error free, but I did step away for about 15 minutes. I could still hear you,
Okay.
but so I'll just go back and follow the video.
Yeah, because we just did it twice. We did it with Jean. You'll totally get it, because the way we did
Okay.
it with her will clear it up for you.
Okay.
Too.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. It's interesting because I thought I wasn't going to be able to do mine. Remember when I thought I would have those same 3 errors, but then my computer found the fonts and suddenly I was left with an error. So that's why it was good that Jean shared, because my goal was to stay with the 3 errors to then show you how to fix the 3 errors. But then my computer didn't make my 3 errors. It's so I'm so glad that I got to have someone with 3 errors to show that. All right. Now, let's bring, okay, so let's write something here. We played around with, we brought it in ourselves, but
You're
what
not
we haven't
sharing.
yet touched. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. All right, cool. So this here on the right side that says product overview, we haven't worked with yet, right? So notice that there's this box and this box, which remember I just said, we usually don't put a box underneath text with color. And I kind of showed you how weird it would look when you put, because the text doesn't really center well or something like that. So this is an example of, you wanted the headline, but you wanted a box around the headline, right? So let me hit the W again to see what we're doing, and see how there's a box down there. And then there's the headline, and the headline right now isn't formatted, but they are 2 different things. This is one thing and that's another. So that's how you normally would do it when you want a box to appear under text, so that you can move them independently. So if you click over here, you're clicking the box that has a color, but notice that it's a color that has a transparency. You see how you can see the photo a little bit underneath? Yeah, so it's a color, but it has some transparency. So let's talk about that a little bit. Select that box. And then if you go to the fill and you click on the fill, it's showing you that it has a color CMYK. We're going to talk much more about CMYK next week and how to make your own colors, but it has a color here, right? But this color that it has, I don't see anything else here that tells me why it's transparent. This is just a color that I chose. Why would it be transparent? Well, over here, underneath stroke, corner, and and underneath fill, you see stroke and corner, and the last thing you see is opacity. And it's showing you 85% opacity. If you click on this arrow, you can move this and you can make it much more opaque to the point that it's gone. You can make it very light. You can make it a little bit less light. If you touch the W, you might be able to see the effect better. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my W here, and I left the tool for a second so that I can see the W. Click on the box again, and it's a little bit easier to see without all the boxes. See how I'm moving the opacity of the fill? If I go to 100%, that's a purely off-white, whatever color that is, or it's almost transparent, or anything in between. Okay, so this is a very typical thing to do in a brochure or under headlines. You want to, it's very hard to put a headline over a busy image. When you want to see the headline, you give it a little transparent box. So it was barely transparent. It was 85%, but you would kind of see what was happening. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Now this box was not a text box. It's separate from the text. It's just a box. And let me move over. I scooched over a bit too much. So I could have given it a fill, which I did. I could have given it a stroke. And a stroke is an outline to that box. And right now it says no stroke right there. Right? So let's click on stroke and let's choose a color for that stroke. And let's choose a color that's really obnoxious and horrible, like this big pink, magenta, pure magenta. So I've chosen a magenta stroke. So when I look at it, see how it's got a thin little, and I'm going to click away to make this box again disappear a bit. So see how I have a thin little stroke around that box right there. If I hide this, you might see it better. Oh, right there. So what I want us to do is to change the thickness of the stroke and make it 2, 3, 4, 5 points. There you really see it, a whole bunch of a stroke. So it's that little outline. Okay. Notice that the stroke is also going opaque. So if I give the whole box 50% opacity, see the stroke also went transparent. See that? It's changing opacity. So we didn't want a stroke for this box, but I wanted to show you what a stroke is. A stroke is an outline to a frame. Okay, that's what a stroke was. It's not something that'll fail you in your tracks. It is actually just an outline. But we call it a stroke here. We call it a stroke in Illustrator. We call it a stroke in InDesign, in Photoshop. And you can choose what kind of stroke you have. So again, I gave it an obnoxious color so we could really see it. And then I gave it a big size so you could really see it again. And then you can choose what kind of stroke you want. So this is just a straight line stroke. But what if you wanted a double line stroke? Or if you wanted a left slant lash stroke, or if you wanted a dotted stroke, okay? So you can change. And the fact that I made it so big is so that we can see it, but it also allows for some of these drawings to show up, a little wavy stroke, okay? So this is how you make outlines and stuff. So now if I were to give it no fill, the stroke disappears because it's just as opaque as my fill. Okay, so be careful with that. I'm going to show you later how you can separate one from the other. But right now, a basic stroke is connected to the fill of the box, so you can't separate it. In this case, it's the same thing. So let's go back here and a little triple line, and let's go back to the basic one, which is solid. Pretty cool, right? Now, last thing, one more second. I want to show you the possible corners of this box, which is right underneath there. Here it's showing the corners, and notice that I can change to a different type of corner, a little fancy beveled corner, or an inset, or, you know, stuff. Again, it's a little bit gimmicky, but now and then it really helps. And usually I wouldn't have a 12-point stroke. This is just so that it's really obvious, but see, I can make it much skinnier, much bigger, much whatever it might be. So I can make that a little skinny. And then I might actually be able to make it a color that's not so obnoxious. So say that I'm going to make it bigger so you really see the color. So this is bright, bright pink. Now, what if I made it a stroke that's similar to this pink? Can I do that? Well, yeah, it's possible. I can go over here and change this pink to be something that, whoa, I didn't mean to fill it with pink, sorry. I filled the whole frame with pink. So you can change the color. There's a whole bunch of conversation around color, so I'm going to leave that for another day because we're definitely going over. But the reason this stroke keeps going out is because this whole frame has been made longer. So if I had wanted this to end inside, I would have to make that frame fit. Now there's a reason for why the frame is out here. We're going to be talking next week of bleed and all of that. But when you have a stroke and you have the frame ending out here for a bleed, which I'll explain what it is, which is correct, this is where it should end, then the frame stroke kind of doesn't really work that well. I'm going to go ahead and put this back into none. I don't want any weird corners. I don't want a stroke. So I'm going to go back to stroke and I'm going to say none. So I'm going all the way up here to none. Okay. We'll practice this a bit more, but play around a little bit with boxes and strokes, make little stuff out here. None of this is precious. None of this is important. We're going to be creating other stuff too. So just play with it and give it some of this stuff. If you want to play with it a lot, then create a new one, make a save as and create one to mess around with, and then change fonts and change text, give the frame a stroke, give it a new fill, play around with it. But leave one kind of where we're at so that we can pick up from here next week. And then we have other files that we're going to work with too. But I just want you to know that the whole way of learning is to try weird things and then to ask me how come. And then I'll tell you how come it worked or didn't work. All right. Okay, so we're done. I'm going to have us save wherever we're at. Again, all you need to do is save, not save as. I'm gonna have this file available, ready to go for anyone who messes their file too much next week. I'll put this one up too, so that whoever needs to will pick up from mine to continue working. Okay. But let's close out because I'm past my time. So the right way to do this is to first, let's close the individual file. Let's click over here on the X. That's one way to close it. You could also go to file close. Now let's quit the program. So I'm going to go over here and close this X on the Mac. You go to the Word InDesign and say quit, but on a PC, you click on this little X to get rid of it. Be good about closing out of VDI, those of you on VDI, because it's easier then to have things connect correctly next week. Now let's go and close Bridge. And then you're welcome to either close this tab or to go even one step further and log out of VMware. To do that, you go to this little tab that's right here. Click on that white tab, and then you can go to Horizon and log out and log out. And that kind of gives you the cleanest exit so that everything logs in correctly next time. All right. So now, just so you know, I forgot to say it when everyone was awake or was here. Tomorrow is my Photoshop class in the morning and my Illustrator class in the afternoon. I have spaces left in the Illustrator class. If you want to take the Photoshop class, you need to kind of petition me. And if people drop out or don't show up, then I'll let you in. Okay, so send me an email. A few of you did last week, and over this week we got you connected. Last couple of days we got you connected. But yeah, so that's all. And class is over. Send me an email. The class starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow for Illustrator and at 1:30 p.m. No, 9 a.m. for Photoshop and 1:30 p.m. for Illustrator. Okay. If I don't see you in any of those tomorrow, then I'll see you next Tuesday on InDesign. Thank you all for staying. Great questions. Good work. See you in a week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Diana, I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
How do we save
course.
again?
What do you mean save again? Just a
Like,
single save?
So save up until where I am?
Yeah, just save them. Just say
but-
file, go to file and say save.
But do I save it? We don't save it in our shared drives, it's in my drive, correct?
In my drive, yeah, the shared drive is inaccessible for saving. It's kind of a sealed, it's protected like a little force field. You can't save because the sample files need to stay untouched. So you can only save in my drive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Good night.
Sorry, one more question. It says file not found.
course.
Here, let me share my screen, if you don't mind.
What happened? What happened?
You guys come on outside. Joaquin, come here. Santiago.
What's happening?
Is everything okay?